you should absolutely not be dating a psychologist. You specifically should not be.
Oh, wow. I'm going to cut this into the conversation later about the start. Yeah. Why should I not be dating a psychologist? They'll figure out things wrong with me quickly.
I think just somebody who's got like answers that are like in some way definitive about like how people feel is just like not a great fit for the way that you and a lot of people like me who are from, you know, more like Mediterranean backgrounds like to talk. Let's put it that way. I think a psychiatrist or somebody with psychiatric knowledge bothers me in a way that I think that they would bother you also.
With that, welcome to this not so common podcast.
This is where I revealed that I'm a Scientologist right at the beginning of this.
I'm your host, Pat Contry. And jumping in before I could introduce him, you know him as a writer, as part of Super Beard Bros, from the Chilluminati podcast, and other ventures such as a guest on more than one NES charity marathons, as well as the only fill-in guest ever on the Completely Unnecessary podcast. This is my pal, your pal, Alex Faciane. Alex.
Hey.
We should not be dating people in the psychological field. That's what you're saying.
It's not, it's just, there's not a lot of people that I can like, there's not a lot of details about someone where I like might get in an argument with them in a public setting.
Uh-huh.
But one that I've discovered, you know, and not in a bad natured way, just in a way where we butt heads in a way that I think makes other people maybe at the table uncomfortable, that kind of way.
You mean me and you, how we appear to other people, not me and you.
I'm saying me and anybody who is in the psychiatry or psychology profession, mm-hmm. I often get in arguments with them.
Really?
Yeah. And it, not like I say, not in a hateful way, just like needle.
Well, psychology was one of my majors, but I don't like fall onto that for training or for experience or anything. It doesn't. An undergrad in psychology is absolutely worthless in the real world. So
I did English and film, so you know I know all about worthless degrees.
They're not worthless. English is not worthless. To know how to interpret classical writing and to express feelings and thoughts of others, like that's important for life, right?
If your life is eventually teaching other people English.
Wow. Wow. I thought you were more romantic at heart than I am. Wow. I'm learning.
I love writing. All right. Like that's a whole other world, but teaching English, that's not that romantic. That's like, you know, that's like if Indiana Jones is going out on an adventure, reading is Indiana Jones's dad. You know what I mean? Like this is not one of the. I wouldn't say it's one of the romantic ones, like English. No, yeah.
Do you want to get into Indiana Jones? This is sort of like a weird day. It's almost like Friday the 13th. We're off by a day. It's Thursday the 13th. But this day in particular, with everything going around, I think we have. I'm not trying to be hyperbolic. This is the end of the current Hollywood system as we know it, in my opinion.
That's pretty hyperbolic.
I was trying not to be hyperbolic.
How could you be more hyperbolic? You can say this is the end of America. That's not.
The Hollywood system changed in the 70s, as you know. There was a shift.
Yeah, okay, that's fair.
There was a shift again. Probably a shift again in the 90s. You want to say with the rise of the summer blockbuster more and more. And then in the 2010s with the superhero movies out the wazoo, which affects what's happening now. But you have a writer's strike that's going on for the past couple of weeks, and now today you have
months even maybe.
Was it been a couple of months?
Maybe 2-3 months now.
But now you have a historic Screen Actors Guild strike started today. So Hollywood is basically shut down entirely.
More than 60 years have passed since this has happened. And as someone who is from LA, this is a palpable change to the way that life goes on in this city.
Does it feel weird because like you're the center of it, so you see like this is going to affect a lot of people obviously, or even people that other like friends of friends and things like that. The whole industry is being shut down. So with the writers on strike, it was just, you can shoot things as long as it's written and ready to go. Like Deadpool was written ready to go. You can go to production as long as you have no writing changes or things like that.
Not anymore.
With the actors gone, you can't. You can't. So now you can't shoot anything with actors.
You can't promote anything.
You can't promote, but now you can't even write anything for the future as well. So we're talking about the entire industry coming to a halt for TV and movies. And
Can I say that it feels great?
It,
The prospect of that seems amazing to me.
Why do you think we were overdue for a correction?
No, just in a selfish way. In a selfish way where now I can like watch some shit.
So the hell with all these tens of thousands of people out of work. It's like I can catch up on.
No, obviously,
by Jack Ryan season 4 now on Amazon Prime, which I'm catching up on, by the way.
Obviously, I'm solidarity with pretty much like I just tweeted this today. I have solidarity with pretty much anyone who's ever struck for any reason. Striked.
I
don't know. Yeah, I feel like it could be one of those weird exceptions. I have solidarity with every strike that's ever happened, maybe ever, just by pure like philosophical idea of what a strike is. I'm just so behind it.
The downtrodden versus those in their ivory towers, right? Yeah. It's like 99% of the time, the ones in the ivory towers, they can give up a little more. They can afford to have one less yacht, right?
Like Bob Iger today saying it's unacceptable what they're asking for from his like billionaire boys camp while he's making $27 million a year. And then somebody asked him why. Why is it unacceptable? He said, I can't answer that.
Because I can't. Because it's funny. As I've gotten older, there was an expression of, going back to the day, like you would get more conservative as you get older, going back to the movie. I don't think that's happened anymore. I think with people, their eyes being more open because of social media and news, like constantly, the fact that you get direct quotes from the head of Disney now, almost in real time, that you can react to. I think it does something a little bit different in your head. You're like, what the hell is happening? Like, it's harder to camouflage all these quotes and news items the way you did back in the day when you'd wait till, your newsman at 6 p.m. to tell you what was going on. This is constant. Like, there's less filter. There's not a chance to massage this stuff. The article that just came out the other day about the strategy, it's like the fact that they put it in writing and allow it to happen between the producers, being that, we're going to let the writers strike go on for several months until people are foreclosing on their homes and being thrown out in the streets. That's our actual strategy.
How is that the fact that record?
And so the news is out like that. Once I got out, even some of the producers were screaming at each other. Like, I guess they have their own quote unquote guild. They're all together in their own pact. But like all the big studio heads and everything, it's like once things are that nakedly transparent, it's hard to be like, well, they can just get another job. It's like, no, there's definitely forces in play it here where it's so stark at a certain point where, like you said, like this is bound to happen. At least to me, in my mind, it's bound to happen. But this has been a long time coming, in my view. I think this would have happened eventually, but obviously streaming has exacerbated the issues with both the writers and the actors, where like 10 years ago, these issues did not exist like they do now. And now in the past, really 4 to 5 years, we've seen a maelstrom of really strange moves. We've seen, if I'm monologuing, just tell me to shut the hell up. I have a propensity for doing that.
No, but I don't think so.
You have the rise of like 7 main streaming services the past 5 years. Peacock, HBO Max. Now
Rise is a debatable word to use, by the way.
Well,
emergence. Let's say emergence.
They didn't exist, and now you have Paramount, and now you have the only one I would say it's separate is Prime, because that's like a lost leader, so it really doesn't count. Like that's like not why you have Prime. It's like you have Prime for free shipping and Amazon deals.
Prime is got to be considered now because, like, especially
it's like a tax write-off.
Well, I live about 1 mile away from like the Hollywood of all this, like streaming new media shit. Mm-hmm. Like pretty much, literally, like Amazon just purchased the movies, the studio, the entire backlot, like a mile away from my house. Like, if anybody, like they're all legitimizing into things that are the size of at least where United Artists was when it came out. You know what I mean? I don't know what it was like for the other studios at that time compared to United Artists in size, but I feel like this shift, and you're saying it's long time coming, right? Like, I feel like if you live here, and especially me, I came up through comedy. Every single person that I know works in the industry. It's the writing has been on the wall since like 2010.
Since that early, like basically that was when streaming basically started with Netflix, when they were getting
the moment that you can't see what's going on. Like before the writer's strike and almost like leading up to it, the big like discourse on Twitter that I saw was like really interesting to me. Was like everybody was like, you know, with the output, like the format of the output changing, absolutely none. Like television shows are still television shows that come out. Movies are still movies that come out. People have to give somebody money in order to have the ability to watch the movies and watch the television show in some way, whether it be through consuming advertising or directly paying money, right? This is exactly what's still happening. No difference in terms of just the concepts, the big concepts, what I learned in 1995 when I was in school.
The whole structure of the industry, how things are made, yes.
Nothing has changed,
yes,
except that in 2010, Netflix just decided to pretend that that didn't exist and just was like, oh, and you can't see the numbers, and we don't pay residuals. And then every other company was like, word?
Yes. And what's interesting about that is that they trusted Netflix knew what they were doing when that wasn't their business. Netflix got big basically because they were basically a really good distribution network. That's the reason they survived over. Blockbuster tried their own mail-in service for DVDs as well, but they were behind on distribution. Netflix had a distribution network beautifully set up that they can get you a new DVD the next day. So then you have basically a distribution network that all they do is they're a wholesaler buying DVDs, right?
Yeah,
now,
at their height, they're $20 billion in the hole.
No, this is where I'm getting at.
Yeah.
12 years ago, before they started doing like streaming, 14 years ago, Netflix, their bread and butter, they were a genius at, well, they were good at marketing, but they were a distribution mailing network. That's all they had to be good at. Now they're getting in the business of funding productions, traditional productions. Orange is the New Black, House of Cards. And at first it was like, oh, they got a few things going on. And then a few years later, oh my God, Netflix has more and more originals. They have more and more stuff going on. They have Stranger Things. They have movies. They're like that awful one with The Rock and Ryan Reynolds that cost $200 million. So they're in this playground that's existed in Hollywood for 100 years, but they're just throwing money everywhere, and it's seeming to work so that the traditional folks and Disney and HBO, they're like, hey, we have to do this too, not realizing that Netflix has no clue what they're doing. Yeah. They just see money coming in and are like, well, just throw more money at it and it'll work. And it's like, no, that's not what's working. They were first to the party, but is that sustainable over the long term? The answer is no, it's not. Just to keep throwing money and create constant content, because you don't know what the ROI is for any of this content. You have no idea.
When I started to get really worried about Netflix was when I heard them. I had like suspected it for a while that this was their strategy, and then I heard someone say in some interview somewhere that their thing was just greenlighting shit that nobody else would greenlight.
Yeah, South Park did an episode about that. We'll greenlight whatever. Going to like these directors that people never tell them yes, and just being like, yeah, you know what, make it like, first draft movies being made into movies. And if you just think about that logically, you mean like rough scripts that are just like, yeah, we'll just do it.
It's like, I mean, in some ways, like you got to be honest about like what has been happening for 100 years in the movie industry. And you got to be like, why do good movies, why is it so rare that a good movie is just like done when it first is like the first draft of it is finished? And why do studios say no to movies and why do studios say yes to movies, right? And obviously like money is a big factor, but at one point in time, not too long ago, and this is why I say, maybe we are getting more conservative. Maybe conservative just means not being a fucking moron now.
Be conservative financially with terms of like money matters with entertainment.
Maybe that's just what it feels like in general when you're a conservative, is that everybody's crazy. I have a suspicion that it might be like that. When you describe yourself as a conservative, your main feeling is probably that everybody besides you is insane. But my thing is with this is like, we're looking at a company that for over 15 years probably has been just openly and obviously doing things like that are just, it's literally, I always think of this the same way. I always think of Glass Onion. I think of the talk that he gave about being a disruptor in an industry and people thinking you're smart, and it being like rich people with money thinking they're smart by breaking everything. and then everybody else lowers to their level. And now the whole industry is on its like deathbed. And what we're gonna revert to like 2006 in about 2 years with how the movie industry works, and Netflix is probably going to be dead, and it's just going to be crazy.
We're going to have obviously we all call this. I knew Netflix was in trouble. I mean, I guess you kind of always kind of knew the past 3-4 years when Disney Plus is that's going to hit big because of the Star Wars stuff and superhero stuff. But when I discovered Mindhunters was a series on Netflix, what was that, 2.5 years ago? I watched this brilliant series. They did 2 years of it. And I discovered it randomly on Netflix one day. This was like a year after they filmed the last episode. And I'm like, this is great. I never heard about this show before, and now I can't watch it anymore. Like, there's no new ones. It's leaving on an almost cliffhanger. If you're familiar, it's about basically the formation of like the term serial killer in the 70s with the first FBI agents that studied them. And it's like they're setting up BTK in the 80s, buying tortured, killed guy in the 80s. Like, that's going to be the third season. Well, the show was gone, because Netflix didn't advertise it. I had no idea it existed. If this was a network show, they would be like in season 5 by now.
Because the network only puts out a few shows a year.
Yes.
Right?
And
Whereas
in theory, they're more careful about what they choose. In theory.
They have to be, because they put out a few a year. Like Netflix, on the other hand, is buying shit from other countries wholesale. Mm-hmm. They're making things like in the way where you hired the class president of the art class instead of the best artist in the class. Like, just a lot of stuff like that. A lot of just thoughtless sort of disruptive behavior that absolutely annihilated a bunch of industries. Netflix has their own writing school or whatever that they're trying to start, where they can
they can just have like staff writers to come up with
that are like not union maybe somehow.
Oh, God.
Just like weird shit like that. That's like fucked up. That's like wrong and doesn't make sense. And it's just there because they're trying to like assert themselves publicly, because they're so divorced from what is a pragmatic part of like making a movie. Any sort of like practical element of it. They're so divorced from that process that they think that the rich people who run it actually believe that the whole thing is conceptual. They think that it's just like them making decisions, and they don't think about we'll worry about the problems that arise later. Let's just do it now. And like it's the same thought as like releasing a bunch of mongooses into the wild to kill all the snakes.
And what happens when the snakes are dead? Oh, we don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, they don't care.
It's the same exact like level of forethought.
Short-sighted, not thinking long term. They're thinking like not even medium term. Like are they even thinking a year from now, or are they thinking like a month from now? Like they don't care, because they have, like you said, they're not at risk. They have the money. These bad decisions,
so much more money than they did 10 years ago.
When people have money, they are less inclined to care about making bad decisions.
They have so much money more than they did before, and so much of the money that's out there is like unified behind the willpower of like one boardroom. You know what I mean? Like,
sure.
It's really not a healthy environment for any of this stuff. There's way too much stuff out there, and so that's why I say selfishly that I'm a little bit relieved to be like on a break from new media for a while, possibly.
Yeah.
If the threat of this isn't too scary.
So I knew Netflix was in trouble with when they started announcing these huge blockbuster movies, like the Ryan Reynolds ones. They've done like 3 or 4. Six Underground was one.
They're already, just forgettable.
Six Underground was like $200 million movie that no one cared about, like that no one signed up for Netflix to watch. Like you're just pissing money away doing that, and you're taking money away from interesting things like, wow, 200 million would have funded, I don't know, 7-8 more seasons of my Mindhunter show.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Like
a show with some merit, right?
Yes, or a bunch of the other, and they did the same thing with the one with The Rock with Gal Gadot. Like no one that I've fallen asleep trying to watch that movie 3 times.
Oh,
like
Black Adam?
No, not Black Adam. The one that was on Netflix. Red Notice. Red Notice. Yeah. So once I started seeing Netflix just throw money against the wall, thinking that people are going to come to them for big star movies, or these scripts, by the way, are absolutely abysmal, obviously. Yeah. They're like you said, they're probably
who's going to write for Netflix when they have no residuals?
Like I said, they're probably like rejected scripts by and large. Like there's exceptions like The Irishman, like with Scorsese. That's like a weird one-off.
Well,
that, like,
fucking Martin Scorsese's involved. He's not going to shit out a movie.
Sure.
But meanwhile, Zack Snyder literally is remaking his like fucking failed Star Wars pitch into a movie, and it's like a big thing.
Who's funding that? Is that going to be Netflix or?
Yeah, it's that Zack Snyder movie that's about to come out.
Oh, is it? Oh, yes,
Rebel Moon.
Yeah,
it's literally called Rebel Moon, bro.
This sounds terrible.
I'm just saying it's called Rebel Moon.
But a bunch of slow motion, overly violent Star Wars. Like, I guess it could be interesting to some people. So these are all $200 million movies that like Netflix is just hoping like this is going to attract people. But they haven't. The point is, I don't think they ever bothered to stop and say, okay, we just came out with like The Gray Man, another $200 million movie. I watched it. I thought it was pretty good because you have Ryan Gosling and Chris Evans. Those are good actors. The plot, of course, is a typical, we're agents fighting each other, whatever, assassins. It's like, whatever. But I don't think they've actually sat down and said, how many new subscribers did we get because we invested $200 million? Did we break even? Did we lose $100 million? Like, what is the actual return? I don't think they ever did that, which is, you might say, Pat, that sounds crazy. But just because people are in charge doesn't mean they're intelligent. And obviously just because they have money doesn't mean they got their money doing intelligent things. That's what I've learned. Like, we're not even discussing how historical disaster Quibi was. And you had some of the brightest minds, supposedly, that were running this streaming service that they just blew over $1 billion within a year like it was nothing. And there's absolutely almost nothing. There's nothing positive that came out of that besides people getting paid.
The people who could have done that well are already working.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like that's the thing about all of this. Like in this environment with all this shit going on where, it's hard to I don't know. It's hard to even see the difference between shit happening on a screen and like film culture and TV writing culture. I don't think anybody has. I think the savviness of the audience is so much lower now because of how degraded everything has been. And I think also then it's insane to imagine that in this environment, right? Going back to what we're here to talk about, like that anybody could expect anyone to care about a movie series where the last one came out was almost universally hated. It came out 15 years ago. And then the other ones all came out in the 80s that were good.
Oh, you're pivoting to Indiana Jones?
I'm just saying there's 5 of them, and everybody's like, I can't believe Indiana Jones was a fucking flop. And I'm like, no, it's obvious why it's a flop in this environment.
Well,
because an event movie doesn't exist anymore unless Tom Cruise tries to kill himself.
Well, first of all, it was not critically panned. This was what's so rare about it. Usually you see like movies that get, critically panned, have a high audience score. Not Crystal Skull. 77% of critics liked it, but only 53% of audiences liked it, which is like kind of rare. It's usually people like, Batman v Superman gets critically panned, but you got most of the audience thinks it's all right because it's a popcorn movie. So this movie comes out 15 years ago. You have a Harrison Ford who's older, not 80-year-old Harrison Ford, but 65-year-old Harrison Ford. Yeah. He still looks good for his age. He can still move around. That comes out.
It's beautifully shot. It's got some of the best actors alive in it, right?
Beautifully shot before you get to the second half, which is mostly CG. But I see what you're saying.
Then it's still like
it looks
storyboarded by Steven Spielberg.
Sure,
like
the action scenes make sense.
It oozes forethought and quality. Let's be real.
Except for the plot, but that was George Lucas's fault. But that's okay.
Yeah, whatever.
George Lucas famously, they're on video. Spielberg and Harrison Ford did not like the idea, and they're like, "Well, this is what George wants to do, and we're sort of tied to it." But anyway, so that comes out. That's at least to people like us a disappointment, because we're like, this is too weird. You have weird monkey vine swinging scenes.
I definitely don't hate it in 2023 as much as I disliked it when I first saw it.
Sure.
I'll say that. I see much more the value of, especially looking back on it after having seen Dial of Destiny. It all feels a little bit better to me.
Okay, so did you enjoy Crystal Skull more than Dial of Destiny. We're in spoiler territory, by the way. If you haven't seen Dial of Destiny, you're not alone. Most of us haven't, because that movie is going to be the first official Indiana Jones bomb out of all of them. It will not even, it might even, I don't think it's going to even break even close to its production budget, let alone marketing, when you add marketing to it.
Like, when it goes on fucking Disney Plus, does that matter? Does it matter that everyone alive will watch it?
No, it won't, because those people are already subscribed for Mandalorian season 4.
Yeah,
like, it doesn't matter.
That crazy? That's what I'm saying. You've now leveraged every dollar that you're going to make against the most popular thing on your platform. Anyway. No, I did not like the Dial of Destiny less than the Crystal Skull. I thought Dial of Destiny was as good of an Indiana Jones movie as you could make in 2023 starring Harrison Ford.
Okay. What I sort of came away with it like, I'm satisfied seeing that, but the story it told, we're talking as writers here, that was the story you told necessary to bring that character back versus just ending it at Crystal Skull with the happy ending where he gets married to his love. He has a son. He gets his hat, puts it on. They walk out the church. Even though that movie's very problematic, and I hate the last half of it, at least that ending's like, okay, he's happy. They did
it again. They did it again in this movie, kind of. You know,
kind of
spoiler territory. But like, how do I say this without it being a spoiler? If you are somebody,
we got to spoil.
I'm okay. I'm not going to spoil it too hard, but I'm going to say this: if your story is like melodramatic character will live forever, yeehaw, that's Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. If you're looking for like a character study of Indiana Jones, who's not a very emotionally available guy, and he's talking openly about how he feels about some stuff that bothered him, and you're watching a person with depression take the first step out of that depression. It's not as, I wouldn't say as climactic of a story, but I think it's definitely the why did Indy wrap it up story that I was looking for from a movie that I wasn't looking for a sequel to, right?
Is it a character study? Like,
yes,
on the surface it is, but really when your study is like, we're going to throw in a retirement party even though you're still in the middle of teaching, doesn't make any sense. But we're like that wasn't his last class. He brought up the finals. It's going to be in the finals, but then he's retiring that day. Whatever. We'll just glance past that plot hole. But then
I wouldn't call that a plot hole.
It doesn't make any sense, Alex. Like, they just tacked it on. Well, this Indiana Jones at the end of his life. How are we going to really push that through the audience? We're going to give him a retirement party where he's no longer to be teaching anymore, even though he's still teaching. It doesn't make any sense. Anyway, and it's also like probably after the Moonlight. It's probably like the next month. That's probably like August of 1969 or so when that happened. Whenever they did that parade, it wasn't that long after.
It might have just been a day where everybody was free, right, to have cake at the same time.
Free in the middle of the summer. We had summer school going on then.
I'm just saying, like, you know, he wasn't done with the semester, but it was probably the last couple of weeks of the semester. You know,
did they have summer semesters in '69? Someone's got to tell me that.
I don't know. Is that where we're like? I don't think that the Holy Grail was in that cave either. You know what I mean?
But but it was obviously like, we got to tug on the heartstrings here. But like, he only opens up on Antonio Banderas's boat for like 40 seconds, and yeah, it was heartfelt. You know, your son died.
And he is obviously working through those feelings throughout the movie in with reference to his actions. But like I say, it's not a big bombastic story. Like in the end, we get a little character study of a barely emotionally available guy who does go through. He's like, I haven't talked to anybody that I care about in a really long time, because I got stuck on one thing and I'm depressed now. And you ruining my life with your greed has made me, has shocked me out of my routine and has made me remember.
Who's Indiana Jones said ruined his life with their greed? Who was he referring to?
Helen Shaw. He basically is like, you showed up and just like callously ruined my life carelessly with your greed. And now you've shocked me. And now he's looking back at himself how he was in Temple of Doom at the beginning of the movie, and he's.
I think you're really doing the writer's work for them, but I'm
really not doing the writer's work for them. That's what the movie is. I was thinking about it in the theater.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
There's a fortune and glory thing to was it Helena? Character.
She clearly
Wombat. Did they ever explain the Wombat nickname?
That's like my least favorite trend in all modern movies is that there's always some nickname in there that just is.
They didn't explain it. Wombat.
Ever since I Love You 3000, it's been everybody's tried to have their own I Love You 3000 since I Love You 3000.
I just thought it was okay. That character. Let's get into the character of Helena. Didn't love the character. Not the worst thing in the world, but like when you have a character that's supposed to be tied to the father figure in some way, and it's like when you find out, well, she just wants the money from selling this object. They didn't do a good job explaining first why is she just going after this specific object to sell, and then bring her back around to like wanting to be like close to her father who's dead through the dial of destiny. I didn't buy it. I
don't think she wanted to be close to her father through the dial of destiny. I think she was actually in the act when Indy runs into her.
Yeah, she was trying to sell it.
I think she's actually in the act of like not just selling it. I mean, like from a personal standpoint, sort of like closing the book on that chapter of her life and putting it in the rear view.
I'm not sure about that.
She doesn't even come back to see Indy for a real reason. She just goes back to get the
to sell it.
And pretends to be nice.
Yeah, it's another way that they brought up with the new short round character Teddy, who I couldn't stand in the movie.
I didn't care about Teddy, right?
I didn't care either. That's the point. You're supposed to care about these characters. I didn't care.
I didn't mind. I didn't mind him. Like he was just like another little boy.
But he was just there to tell the audience that, hey, she gambles and she makes bad decisions. She wastes money, and that's why she's like a grave robber. Like you said, she's what Indiana Jones kind of used to be. But that's his only purpose besides being able to fly a plane at the end, but whatever.
Literally Short Round's purpose, actually key crux to the plot of Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Exactly what you're just saying, just so
absolutely not, because
dude, Indy, I love you, even though you are crazy and you got this relic that literally made you lose your mind and forget who you are as a person, which is what you're doing in a larger sense. In the screenplay of Indiana Jones and Temple of Doom, I am here to remind you through my son-like love that you are a real person, that we have a human connection, and that is when
he snapped him out by somehow torching him, got him out of the voodoo trance.
He had poison in his system. Yeah, he had poison in his system.
But they were actually like father and son like, and it was tender between them. With Helena's character and Teddy, I did not feel that at all. First of all, this is what actually pisses me off. He's a short round character, same exact origin. Well, I found him on the streets trying to steal from me. Exactly what Indiana said about short round. But Indiana never said, that sounds like short round. There was no reference to short round, even though they set it up perfectly just as a one-off.
Because you can't talk about Short Round in 2023 if you're not going to have the dude in the damn movie.
They had a reference to Temple of Doom later when he's climbing. It's like I
know, but the Shankara stones aren't like a famous actor.
He said, "I drank the blood of Kali Ma." It's like, whoa, dude! All right, we got a Temple of Doom reference.
But you can't. I'm just saying, you can't say Short Round and not have your boy in the movie.
Oh my god, that would have been.
I don't know the actor's name. I just know that I haven't seen Everything Everywhere All at Once yet. I hear that it's fantastic, that he's great in it.
Why
he's winning awards for it? You know what I mean? So you can't do. I don't know. That's why I wouldn't have mentioned
Ke-Huy Quan. That's his name.
Ke-Huy Quan. That's right. Exactly.
I don't know. First of all, I don't know why he didn't come back. They didn't get him back for Crystal Skull. I don't know why, because he's obviously.
In another life, that would have been a great idea. In like another alternate universe where we were like rebooting Indiana Jones after the fucking third one, bringing Short Round back would have been a great idea. But now where we're at, we have to build off the bones of that movie. And just because we, even though they did just kind of poochie the shit out of that last movie a little bit with the fifth one, right?
They poochied it.
Poochie went back to his home planet hard, right? Like,
well, he's done. Well, Harrison Ford, he was 80 years old playing a 70-year-old, and you buy it because
I'm not talking about Indiana Jones. I'm talking about Mutt.
Yes. Well, yes.
Literally Poochie in like every way is Poochie.
Sure.
But actually, similar to how I kind of thought they kind of respected until the very end when they did CG of him anyway, Egon Spengler, like where they kind of like acknowledged the like loss, like similar vibes with Indy, right? Like they did it almost tastefully in a way that I was happy with.
I can't believe you compared the character of Teddy to Short Round. Like the most outrageous thing Short Round did was have a car with blocks on his feet till he reached the pedals.
One movie.
This guy piloted. Somehow knew how to fly an airplane by himself at like 11 years old.
No, he was taught by a pilot in the bar. What? Over years. There's a whole scene about it. He obviously has a relationship with the pilot in the bar in Morocco.
Obviously.
He teaches him at the table how to use the plane.
Obviously.
I'm just saying one movie is one of the movies that's a classic American movie that's formative to the collective childhood of everyone from 25 to 60. And the other one is a movie that came out 3 weeks ago. So I understand that he's not as good as Short Round.
You think Teddy's going to be memorialized? Was there any lines? Was there any lines you remember from Teddy that were memorable from the movie?
It's not like that.
Exactly.
There are lines, right? Like,
are there memorable lines that Teddy said in the movie?
If I see, tell you what, when I watch the movie 35 more times, I will be able to.
Oh, come on!
I will.
You think that portrayal and the writing was strong enough?
You're telling me you walked at a Temple of Doom after one view?
Well, I didn't walk. I was only 4 when it came out. I couldn't get it to PG-13.
Okay, that's not. It's almost impossible to compare them in that way. But what I'm saying is, Teddy exists specifically to echo Short Round, and
this builds my next point. Go for it.
And what's happening with Helena Shaw in the movie is there to let Indy kind of be Sean Connery, but he's actually, instead of being Sean Connery, which is what's his name kind of ends up being, Toby Jones. Toby Jones kind of goes the route of Henry Jones Sr. And so he kind of, instead of teaching him how to be like his dad, he teaches Helena Shaw how to be a good Indiana Jones. That's my read.
That wasn't mine because she was never in the same. She was never like in real peril the same way the father was in Last Crusade, like shot and dying.
Wait, what do you mean? Who?
Helena Shaw's character was never like truly in peril.
There was like men trying to murder her,
but she wasn't captured. She wasn't like. She was always on side by side with Indy. Like it almost like she was not.
She's not because she's Indy. She's not her dad. She's the Indy. She's the.
But I don't think it was the same sort of relationship. It was more like she was there to help Indy. They were partners. They both had part of the solution to the puzzle. That's how all these movies work.
For me, it was like Indy didn't have a kid. And
first of all, I didn't hate this movie. I thought it was fine.
No, me neither.
But the more I looked at it, it was sort of like we have all these, in terms of like structure, we have all these check boxes of things we want to do with Indy in this movie. We want him to use the whip at least once or twice. We want a chase scene. We have the sequence in the beginning fighting all the Nazis. We have that. We always have some sort of backstabbing or twist with one of the characters. We get that. We get all these things. We're like, okay, we have all these different locations we have to go to because they established that by the time of like the first Temple of Doom. They were in like one location outside of the intro for the whole movie. That's why I love Temple of Doom. They were in one location. This is great. This is where our movie's going to take place for 80% of it.
Well, first it's in China.
What's that?
Starts in China.
Yeah, for the first 10 minutes. Then they're then they're out, and then they're in India. So the point is that like they had a globetrot. We get that. We have to have a Nazi threat. Okay. We have to have a Short Round character. Like I said, they're just checking all these boxes off. And at some point, it's like, well, can we say something interesting about the character, without checking all these boxes off? And I guess people want to see an Indiana Jones movie where you check all the boxes off, which I get.
I mean, I got to draw the comparison here between another movie series that I know.
No Time to Die?
Just near and dear to your heart in general.
No Time to Die.
No. A series. James Bond.
Yes. No Time to Die.
Yeah. I'm just saying, like, just any movie in that series. I'm just saying, like, it's the checkbox movie series.
Yes, but that wasn't like the final one until No Time to Die. And in No Time to Die,
it's not the final one now.
Final one in that iteration. There was a five movie arc. I would argue that they were the checkbox for all that. Aston Martin. We have to have a really cool final, gunfight scene. It was the one take
with a weird voice.
Weird villain. Now,
Yeah.
obviously, that script needed work. They even admitted that we were still trying to like rewrite what the villain's motivation was, I think, up until the shooting. But that was a 5-movie arc, all within the past, whatever it was, 13-year span, where it's like, wow, this had a lot more impact than this Indiana Jones movie, at least to me.
I know, but there's 25 James Bond movies that are all not even just the same stuff is in them. It's almost the same. It's like Power Rangers level, same episode every time.
That's a good point, because these are pulpy characters. So I guess the argument would be, do we want to see pulpy characters turned too human, where it's like, wow, I want to see my pulpy character. Do I want to see James Bond in his like boxer briefs or boxers in his apartment when he's 75 years old?
In Casino Royale, I do.
Well, he's not 75 in Casino Royale.
I'm just saying, it's like.
Do you want to see your heroes taken down such to the point where they're almost pathetic in order to try to build them back up to some sort of, narrative relevance? I guess that's the question.
In the point of Indiana Jones specifically, like to his character and whether or not Indiana Jones belongs at rock bottom or not, just to comment on that for a second, I would say that he absolutely does belong at rock bottom.
Really?
In the sense of, if you're looking at pulp heroes, like, I would say that there's the ones that are like pretty earnest young buck pulp heroes that you get. And then there's the kind that Frank Miller sort of like almost parodied, like to the point of ridiculousness in Sin City, with like these sort of like, or Batman, The Dark Knight, that are kind of like just so broken down that it's like kind of badass to watch them get up off the floor and kick everybody's ass again.
Sin City, I wouldn't say is pulpy. That's like noir, hard edge.
Sin City is definitely pulpy. I mean, but
that's not the same vein as a serial character like Indiana Jones, were literally built off of the serials of like the 30s, and 40s with cliffhangers, and these characters are just there for action alone. Like, you're not supposed to like think too much about them. They're characters that like literally you go to the movies to see them get in and out of danger. That's what they exist for.
I don't think I'm thinking too much about Indiana Jones here. Like, I didn't take it too serious. I just thought that in the terms of like the romance of this movie, what we're getting is something a lot more kind of like an old boy type scenario, like almost from one point of view of like what's cool about Indiana Jones, the guy in this. Like, obviously we got a movie that's still a boilerplate Indiana Jones movie with Nazi and stuff, but like what's cool about this one compared to the other ones is that he's kind of like old, and like him beating people's asses. Like, you're looking, when you heard about James Mangold making this movie, everybody was like, oh, are we going to get our like Logan of Indiana Jones? And as much as Indiana Jones can be Logan, I think it was, right? Like
Berserker Indy.
Well, not Berserker. I'm saying like the dark sort of like, the Dark Knight Rises of Dark Knight Returns of Indiana Jones. It's not that, because like we both said just now, it's light. It still has the same theme song.
There's a couple of
yeah.
I mean, there's more people killed in cold blood in this movie, and like versus a lot like killing of the CIA agent in the first like a half hour or whatever. I was like, where is this going? It's like, are these like, and that structure was weird too. It's like these guys are working for the baddie, but they're still part of the government, but are they just independent agents? Whatever. They didn't clearly think that out. I think clear enough for the audience to understand like who the hell are these guys? But whatever.
In my mind, what was going on was that he was like a World War II scientist that has CIA handlers, and he was saying, I'm going to help the government by XYZ, but really he was like leading them down somewhere where he could double cross them so that he could like get his own.
He managed to recruit neo-Nazis to be part of his crew, and
which I loved.
But it was his name. What's that?
I loved the guy from Logan as a neo-Nazi. I thought he was so perfect, because everybody like the idea. Okay, can we just get into a little bit of spoiler?
Well, we got into spoilers. Well, I mean, like, go for it.
Like true end of the movie spoilers.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, like I loved the vibe of him getting to like live his dream of like putting on a Nazi uniform with the real Nazis in the fucking.
Are you talking about
like,
Boyd Holbrook's character?
Yeah. Yes.
But that's the thing, is like, you don't know it's his dream. Like, there's never the moment where he like actively says, yeah, I agree that like that the Germany should have.
That was so great about, like,
no, you have to explain why these guys are risking their lives and want to go back in time to help the Nazis.
He put on the Nazi uniform. Like,
that's not enough.
He was like, yeah, like, you could tell, dude. Like, I think just the subtle way that they were like, yes, there are these like Americans that are like these little blonde assholes who love pretending like they're Nazis, and they're actually little bitches, but
they're actual Nazis. Like, they want to help the Nazis win World War II. Is what you're saying?
It's kind of like without making the movie about being like this sort of like the Nazis are all around us even today kind of movie. It was just a kind of fun, joking way to kind of put that that little thought into the movie.
I don't think it was funny. I don't think it was joking when they were shooting everyone in cold blood. I was pissed they killed that nice Italian guy in front of the cave. I was like, a nice Italian guy just letting tourists in. They had to shoot him too. I was so pissed off. And he really didn't get his comeuppance either. There was no comeuppances for these folks like in prior movies.
Dude,
he just crashed in a plane. I wanted Indy to choke him with his whip or something.
The one dude got chained to a gate underwater
by Teddy.
Yeah, Teddy's a fucking G.
But what about Boyd Holbrook's Clobber character? His name is Clobber. That's a C-L-A-B-R.
I thought Clobber was great. He was like a fucking.
There was no. I wanted the real comeuppance. I wanted the scene, where Indy. I know he's old enough to take him out, but like that guy needed his comeuppance, and there wasn't. It was just they crashed in a plane somehow, and the Greeks are going to get freaked out by this, but whatever. I think
honestly, once they went through the time portal, that like everybody who was making that movie was like looking at each other, just like how far can we go with this? Like, how are we going to get away with this? Are we going too far? It felt very unconfident, hesitant once you through the time portal.
Well, it was, I think, up to that point, I'm like, okay, they're going to do this. They're going to go back in time. Indy says, well, you didn't account for the continental drift. So I guess they never explained how, because the Dial of Destiny was based upon a real device that they found underwater, like 1906. What is it? I can never say it.
It's the
Antikythera device, which they've now know that it was it was a device, an extremely complex device that to predict constellation and where moons and Jupiter and the planets were, and they've had people reproduce this thing, and it's amazing. We did a little bit of a Chilluminati talk on it. Oh, you did?
It's actually amazing. Like I've never been prouder of humanity than I was looking at that mechanism. And
obviously it was like 1,000+ years before its time of doing something that complex.
Yes,
which goes to show you that humans were more intelligent than we thought. So fuck you, all you ancient alien people that thought we can't build the pyramids or anything else. Humans, when you have a lot of time on your hands and a lot of manpower, you can do a lot of cool stuff. Anyway, so I guess they said, well, this thing knows where fissures in time are. I'm like, okay, I buy that. How? They never explain how did Mads Mikkelsen's character know that was going to send them back during 1939 or whatever. They never explained that.
The numbers.
No, they didn't do a good enough job with that. Like,
I didn't care why. That's the thing. Like, if he figured it out, he's a scientist. He can figure it out. I was more interested in hearing what nice cracks. Because you know what? I loved how anti-Nazi Indiana Jones was in this movie.
Well, he usually is, but yeah.
He usually is, but it's nice to see a movie actually in 2023 where the main character is like, hey, fuck Nazis. Like, it just, I never thought that would feel edgy again, and it felt great.
During the first overly long sequence when Indy's still young in World War II? Is that what you mean?
Dude, you can say it was overly long.
It was overly long.
But if I could create that sort of technology and I made this movie, I would feel like I would want it to go on forever.
But like this was over 2.5 hours. This movie, most Indiana Jones movies are under 2 hours or about.
We could have lost it. We could have lost 10 minutes of that.
15. You could have started.
I was having fun with the action by the end. By the time they got up and going on the train, I was feeling good.
I think you could have started it almost on the train. Like, you could have started on the train. You wouldn't have lost anything. But that's okay.
I think once they got on the train, I don't know. It did feel a little long, but it didn't take me out of the movie. I wasn't
just the fact that they didn't change Harrison Ford's voice to be younger, but they made him look younger. That bothered me, but whatever.
I feel like you have a lot of like super fan problems with this movie that are like, less like to me like
This isn't a super fan problem.
What I mean is like I feel like they didn't affect your opinion of the movie too much either.
No, that didn't affect me. But if you're going to spend you're going to do all this technology to make him look younger, it's a lot easier to make someone sound younger. Why didn't they just go the full mile to make him sound younger as well?
Some people's voices just don't work good with that shit. And Harrison Ford honestly sounds like Iggy Pop.
Come on.
I don't know.
With AI tech, they have all the recordings of him over like dozens of movies. They could have done it.
We were talking about this the other day too. Like maybe that was his like line.
That was his line. It's like, you make me look younger. I want my voice to be unchanged.
Honestly, like, dude, I don't know. Like, I don't know. You know?
I mean, yeah, you're right. You're right. What was I going to say? Guy threw me off about that. World War II. It was nice to see, it's the last time you see like Indiana Jones do anything actiony. Obviously, that's the contrast to him in his underwear in his apartment being old and yelling at hippies. I totally get that. And it was fine.
I also loved the ending in the sense of like, okay, metaphors, right? Like he's literally living, he wants to literally live in the past rather than face his problems.
Yes. Yeah, that was nice.
And Helena is like, no, you motherfucker. Like the good deeds that you've done in your life are going to let you have a life with people in it again. You know?
Sala likes you, and you still got Marion that cares about you.
I love the idea of like upstanding American citizen Sala. I love the idea of like.
Oh, he was great.
Like dreamer Sala.
I would say like it was good to see Sala. This goes to another point I'm going to have about and this has really been Disney's thing with their 3 older male characters they've brought back, 2 of which are Harrison Ford and 1 was Mark Hamill, where, wow, all these old heroes of ours, when they get older, really fucked up or did something wrong, are really miserable people. And I know that's a nice way to start a story, but it's also a crutch. And it's getting...
it's a hero myth, right? Like
not in that sense where they really fucked up and now they have to redeem themselves. It's more like you can have a story where it's one last adventure to do something good. I think you can do that without having your character that you loved for 40 years be this character, not as much, because you didn't know why Mutt was pissed at him and joined the army. You don't find out, but you do know that Han Solo was a fucker to Princess Leia, and that Luke Skywalker almost killed a fucking teenager.
He wasn't a fucker to Princess Leia.
It sounds like he fucked up. Like he did.
It sounds like Han Solo and Princess Leia lost their son to the dark side, and both kind of went on like some benders of their own.
Sure, but okay, but then you have Luke Skywalker that was not acting very Luke Skywalker-y, and like was just gonna murder this kid. Like it's just like there's only
can't learn a lesson. He shouldn't be in the movie.
There you go. You have to make them all awful in their old age. None of them can have nice retirements just with their.
They do. They all
with their space.
He literally finds inner peace. Indiana Jones literally gets his wife back and falls in love again. It's all good.
But the son's dead. The son's dead. But that's
Nobody
okay.
wanted that guy in there anyway. I'd rather have Helena Shaw be in the next movie.
Give
the Disney Plus series to Teddy and Helena.
Mutt joins the army and gets killed by the Viet Cong within 3 weeks. That's fine. That's.
No, it's not the Viet Cong, right? Oh no, it is. Oh wow,
it's the Vietnam War. It's a Viet Cong. Yes. I would love to learn like what he did to piss him off. Maybe he was like, "Oh, you got to study archaeology. You got to go to grad school." And Mutt's like, "I don't want to." Mutt's like, "I don't want to take those loans. I'll go on the GI Bill, even though I don't think the GI Bill exists yet. I'm going to join
any of that
because it wasn't like there could have been something." I'm not saying it would have been. I'm trying to not rewrite the movie with you, but like, what if it was? It could have been an anti-drafting. What if Mutt was drafted, like so many young men were, and then died?
What if he just loved America and wanted to go, and Indy was like, "Don't go to the fucking war."
Yeah, I think that even those 2 options say a lot more than he didn't like me, so he joined the army. I'm just like, well, that's leaving a lot of questions. That's like a big sacrifice. You're going to join the army during the middle of a war like that. It's like, okay. I mean, I'm sure it's possible. But
is Indiana Jones ever come down as pro or anti military service before, though?
No, he was in the war on the side of the Allies.
Well, I mean, everybody was. You couldn't really help it if you wanted to or not. If you ended up getting drafted, right? Like,
no, but he was like obviously anti-Nazi. He was anti-communist. They have all these stories of him. Like they reference it. They reference it in Crystal Skull. Where like, oh, he was like, he's not a commie. He was helping us fight against like the Red Scare and stuff. So like, no, that he was like I think a captain or in the army, like Indiana Jones. Like
I feel like Indiana Jones would be like a real commie, but not like.
What do you mean a real commie? What do you mean?
Like I feel like he would be like a socialist. Like I feel like
he's Mr. Capitalist. He wants to sell all these stolen artifacts.
That's Temple of Doom. That's 1933 Indiana Jones. We got to talk about 1936 Indiana Jones.
Well, he still wanted to steal the stuff and put him in museums. So I mean,
that's his origin story.
No. He still wants to put the Grail in a museum. He still wants to take, and people are like down with like taking things from native countries and putting it in museums. That is
in Indiana Jones's time.
That was what you did.
Putting in the museum is like I didn't want to make money off of this.
Sure, I get it.
Yeah.
Or I'll steal it for Marcus, and who the hell knows what he does? Remember he gave him artifacts in the beginning of Raiders. He's like, here's some crap I found. I couldn't get my hand on the idol, but here's some shit.
That's the best. That's the best line in any of the Indiana Jones movies is when he's talking about Marcus in.
He knows several langes. He knows all the cultures. He'll disappear. You'll never find him. With any luck, he has the Grail already. Smash cut. Does anyone here speak English?
I love that.
Yeah, that was fun. People bag on Last Crusade a little bit because it is sort of like, well, it's a semi-retread of Raiders of the Lost Ark.
It just doesn't have like the teeth of the other movies in some ways, I think.
It does. It's still, they're all more violent than you remember when you watch them. But that really lives and dies on Sean Connery, like The Last Crusade.
They're acting like their chemistry is so good, and it just gives the movie, I think, a little bit more of like a campy family tone that I think some people are uncomfortable with, but I'm not uncomfortable with it. I'll fight for Temple of Doom as my favorite Indiana Jones all day.
Thank you. It's my favorite too. I'm not saying it's the best movie. It's my favorite I think by far it's my favorite one.
I think probably the best one, let's be real, it's probably Raiders of the Lost Ark, but
probably.
Like my favorite is definitely the uneven and very delightful Temple of Doom.
It's the most rewatchable one, Temple of Doom, because it's like a carnival ride when you watch
every single thing that happens. You're like, what the fuck are they doing? I love the scene where the guys come out of the walls. There's just it's the one like when I go on the ride, it feels the same.
Wait, guys coming out of the walls. That was Crystal Skull. Guys coming out of the walls.
Remember, there's like they're like in the like there's like a painting on the wall, and they're like there to like.
Oh, you mean that
like
when the thuggy comes out and attacks him after dinner?
He's pretending to be part of the mural in the wall, and he like.
Oh, okay, yes, that was yeah. There were some groups. I really liked how Indy was very overprotective of like Short Round seeing violent things. Remember he said, "Don't come here, don't see us." When there were all the hands that were in the forest, like he was very like the fact that they never revisited even a reference to that relationship really annoys me, because that was the most like tender relationship he had in any of the movies. The most like real relationship with any character is like, wow, this is tender. They're playing cards together and they're joking with each other and they're calling each other cheaters and stuff. And I'm like, wow, wasted opportunity in not just one, but two movies where they had no reference. I'm not saying the characters got to come back for more than a minute, but I just thought that imagine in this movie, if one of their stops, this is basically structured like a James Bond movie, Dial of Destiny. We're going to go to a new location. The villain's going to follow here. We're going to go underwater. The villain's going to follow here. It was set up like a Bond movie. Anyway, imagine if one of their stops was, Short Round back in 1958 was doing a study in this, and we gotta go talk to him for 5 minutes. Just
I'm
like,
for it. Like I wouldn't be sad to see him, but I will say that short of the fact that Ke Kwan is like amazing, I don't know what it is. Something about him and Harrison Ford yelling at each other. Just it
felt great. It was natural.
Like, it just felt really good. He does have in every single movie like 2 or 3 characters that are just like from the movie. You know what I mean? Like there's always somebody who just kind of comes and goes. And it it's a shame that
if that was Short Round instead of Mutt in Crystal Skull. Just imagine, I'm just saying, like you remake the whole movie's entirely different now.
I still wouldn't like it if he swung with the monkeys.
No, that was or doing a split in between the two vehicles with the swords.
It's funny because that same guy made fucking Tintin just like a few years later, right? Same kind of like long, like extremely long,
Never saw
like
Tintin.
actually a 10 out of 10 like essential picture in my opinion.
Essential.
Like amongst Steven Spielberg's movies, I would say one of his best movies in terms of.
Were you familiar with the comic before seeing it or no?
I mostly knew the show, but as a like older comic book reader, I've read a bunch of the Tintin stories, and I think they're fantastic with beautiful art. But just the show that was on like Canadian television in the '90s was really a good adaptation of a lot of those stories. And I just got to say that if you're looking for more indie out there, Tintin is not a bad substitute. And the last sequence, this big giant like tank sequence down through this like sort of like Lawrence of Arabia-esque area is like you're like, how could the guy that made this have made the fucking monkey Nazi jungle Nazi Russian Nazi weird?
Well,
how could it have been the same guy?
Well, it's probably a cost thing. I thought it was probably cheaper to do that, which brings me to our next point about, are we at the end? Are we I think we are. I think we've reached the zenith of these movies that cost $200-300 million, that basically the movie studio heads are looking at these movies more and more like scratch off lottery tickets, where it's like, well, we can be safe and make like a modest profit, or we can swing for the fences and make $500 million on an individual movie. And I think we have hit with this bombing. This is officially a bomb. Flash was officially a bomb. You have two movies that both cost about $300 million each, bombing within a month of each other. Yeah. I think we're at the point where maybe these studio heads are going to be that obstinate, but I think we're going to be like, hey, how about we go back to doing movies that are like $80 million or $50 million, and we'll make a pretty good profit, and people will like the what the hell is that the horror movie that just came out with Patrick Wilson? That's going to turn a
Red Door.
Red Door. That movie didn't cost $100.
I heard it's a big stinker though, but that's another.
But these are movies these are a series of movies, right?
Yeah, I mean the Conjuring movies cost like $3-4 million to make a piece.
Is that it? Really?
Yeah, like I think the last one was like an $8 million movie or something like that.
Insidious, The Red Door. Let's see.
Oh, the Insidious. I'm sorry.
So that's it. Patrick Wilson's in both of them. They're both horror movies. Yeah. So Insidious, The Red Door only cost $16 million. It already has a $74 million box office already.
That's kind of horror's like deal though for the longest
But
time.
that's going to be more. There's going to be a tail. There's going to be obviously streaming and things like that. So the point is this: you can make quality movies that look pretty good for well under $100 million. Like the fact that this movie cost $300 million for Dial of Destiny is insane. That's insane.
It shouldn't have cost that much. I agree with you. But also, here's what I think is going to actually happen. This is my guess. There was the 80s before this and the 50s before that, where movies were just almost all horrible. Like every movie that 80s was like one of the worst, like pound for pound. It has some of the best movies, but the movies that we don't talk about from the 80s are, I would say, it's one of the worst decades for movies, in my opinion. And same thing with the 50s. And what happened in those decades was they were times when the movie industry was extremely cavalier like this, where like everybody's just kind of suffering because people are greenlighting things without a lot of thought, a lot of,
Yeah, the next like giant spider movie will come out.
Yeah, like whatever. Like I feel like
we're there now.
Yeah, we're there. We're at the height of like a big trash pile right now. And I think what's going to happen is, first of all, hopefully, what I hope happens is that the fucking film industry gets its head out of its ass for a second and starts to realize, okay, we have to pay people, and we can't make as much stuff.
Oh, and we can't spend as much on all this.
That's what I mean.
We can't.
Because here's the thing. I would be like totally fine with a movie like Indiana Jones costing $300 million if it was like one of like the 3 movies that Disney was putting out this year, period. You know what I mean? Same thing with these Warner Brothers movies. If you have to go all the way in, if we can't be as choosy, it's the same thing with how everybody used to watch TV and we all used to talk about the same stuff because there was like 10 channels. And then the moment we've got cable, like TV becomes an entirely different beast, and TV as quality goes down by a million. I mean, there's still some of the greatest shows, but once you widen that access, when you add more stuff, it kind of cheapens it, right? Like just by nature of how things work, like abundance makes things less special, right? So I think what people need to realize is that what people are going to come to the movies for, and this is kind of being proven right now by people like Tom Cruise, who, dude's a crazy motherfucker. We can all agree. Mm-hmm. Dude is an absolutely insane demigod human being, in his mind. And he's 100% right about the movie industry. He could not be more correct about what's going to get people back into theaters. And that is making it feel special to go into the fucking movie theater. And
sure.
Indiana Jones is not an exciting prospect when there's a million other things going on that can take your interest away. But when it's 2008 and there's not that much stuff coming out,
let me play devil's advocate. Why is Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 exciting to go to the movie theater versus an Indiana Jones movie where we haven't had one in 15 years?
All of the movies that have come out from this Dead Reckoning series, these like more recent, like probably starting with like whatever,
3 and 4, really 3. Was like
three was like
a reboot, soft
three was
reboot.
Like almost there. Yeah, 3 almost took it to that next level.
4 completed the vision. 3 was like a soft reboot because 2 was a disaster.
3 is like low key my fave. 2 is like hilarious. Like 2, I'm glad 2 exists.
I saw 2 in the movie theater. I'm like, this is ridiculous. I said, this is absolutely insane.
It's a great watch, but it is like not good.
It's like it's like more superheroish than James Bond, and like 10 times more ridiculous.
RRR. It's like dead ass like RRR. It's like John Woo doing RRR.
All right. So anyway, so your argument is that Indiana Jones was not interesting enough to get people back in the theater.
What I'm saying is, Tom Cruise has been talking about as a brand. He's been like, look at all the stupid bullshit that I do. Nobody cares about the plot of the Mission Impossible movies. There's no real continuity between them. It's porn. You know what I mean? It's not horrible.
There's a continuity between the 2 movies between Fallout and was it Rogue Nation?
That's true. There's some but
and in this one, this is continuing this is basically continuing the story of the last couple.
It's there, but like what I'm saying is like we're not like there's not like lore heads diving into this in the same way that people are about other stuff. It's not. It's like John Wick. Like, yes, there's a story. Of course, there's a story, and it's not that bad of a story. It's just like what people want to go see is the man who is impervious to bullets, right? Like, so it's the same thing. John Wick and Tom Cruise are doing the same thing. It's just you're creating this paradigm of insane spectacle, and only the movies can bring you this feeling of excellent like spectacle. You can't feel that in the same way in your house that you can on a screen. And so I think a combination of those insanely buzzworthy spectacles where somebody's life is actually on the line, or somebody is really executing. So like Keanu Reeves, absolute expertise in martial arts at this point. Donnie Yen just absolutely.
Oh, Donnie Yen is a god.
Like that fucking doorbell fight, whatever. We'll get, whatever.
So your argument is basically that like the spectacle of Tom Cruise, not spoilers because it's been public, of him doing a death-defying stunt 6 times in one day to get it right, of going off a cliff on a motorcycle, then hitting a parachute, one of the most insane stunts ever done. Probably rivals like the James Bond Spy Who Loved Me skiing off a cliff and then parachuting. Like these are insane stunts, and this is the star of the movie doing it, not a stuntman. So you're saying that spectacle is going to get people in the theater, but maybe not seeing 80-year-old Harrison Ford in his underwear. I
just think in a world where everything is coming back, everything is getting remade, everything is getting a new version all the time. There's already a new Wonka after the last one. After the Johnny Depp one, now there's a new Wonka coming out, a third Wonkaverse.
That looks nuts, but like that. Yeah, I don't know. When I see stuff like that, I'm like, do they know like that they need an audience that exists to see these properties? Like,
I think they do. I think that audience is out there somewhere.
you think? We'll see. Because when I saw that trailer, when I saw that trailer, the same actor in Dune,
Timothy Chalamet,
I'm like, he's not really acting goofy like
yeah,
I don't understand it. But anyway, I think audiences have come. I think they've come impervious to some of the marketing tricks of some of this, and I think the nostalgia for Indiana Jones was a bridge too far. It was like when I went to see it, I saw it the second weekend. There were all older people there. Like, I mean, like people in their 60s that were like, oh, because I grew up watching Indiana Jones, you know, in my 20s.
They remember it was actually good. That's why. They remember what it was like to go see it.
I guess for a younger audience, though, like if you're 25, why are you going to see 80-year-old Harrison Ford?
You were
Indiana
10
Jones?
when the last one came out.
And you probably didn't like it then or didn't care about it. So
you probably didn't even see that shit. Yeah.
So that's probably part of it. I still can't believe, like, I looked up Crystal Skull cost $185 million, and this cost 50% more almost. And I'm just like,
yeah, I mean, I think some of that has to do with just like
Harrison Ford wanting more money and not that much more probably.
No, I think some of it has to do with like movies are more expensive to make now.
But well, first of all, because it was a half hour longer than Crystal Skull, so that's probably part of it. So I think we're gonna see.
Weren't there like some reshoots? Wasn't like some heavy reshoots?
Oh, I didn't know that there was reshoots. And that obviously hurts.
Yeah, I thought that there was like more production going into this movie for some reason.
That's a problem too. I think they're just filming stuff. First of all, I think this script was probably gone through like multiple writers. This was not one writer's vision. This was like
it was almost. I could see what they were going for.
Sure,
feel it.
So I hope that the studios, maybe it needs to be a turnover of like younger studio heads, if that ever happens, we'll be like, hey, let's go back to movies that how about a movie only costs $120 million instead of $240, and then we can still put out quality stuff, and we take less of a risk, and that affords us opportunities to do weirder shit. We can do that $15 million weird film that maybe that'll take off. Maybe that'll be the new Conjuring. Because I looked up the Conjuring while we were talking. The last Conjuring cost $39 million, and what did it make? A hell of a lot more than that. Conjuring Red Door.
How much did the first Insidious?
The last, confused because the same actor in both.
Yeah,
I was confused too. Conjuring. Oh, excuse me. Conjuring. What was the last one? Conjuring movie. Let's see. The last one was The Devil Made Me Do It. This came out 2 years ago. Semi COVID stuff. It made $206 million on a $39 million budget. That's damn good. That's you're in the profit by tens of millions there. That's pretty good.
Yeah,
that's not bad.
I think you know, the horror industry equalized because it's been based on this sort of haunted house spectacle element by definition, which a lot of, you know, movies that are just about interesting characters and actors don't really have that. Like, why would you go see like Kramer versus Kramer in the movies in 2023?
But you should though.
You should if you're Pat the NES Punk or Alex Faciane, who actually has some respect for film culture, right? But most people don't. Almost no one does.
But for example,
almost no one.
But you should, like, for example, you brought up John Wick. John Wick 4 only cost $100 million. And that's like on the same scale of spectacle as an Indiana Jones movie, which costs three times the amount.
No one's in it, and it's mostly stunts.
No one's in it. What do you mean? You got Keanu Reeves, you got Donnie Yen. What do you mean?
Like, Donnie Yen is not an expensive guy to put in the movie.
I guarantee you that Keanu Reeves got a good amount of change for that movie.
Keanu Reeves has equity in the movie now, so
that's what I mean. So he's getting paid.
Yeah. He's getting paid, but he's not the reason that movie is cheaper. Like, all I'm saying is there's no one else in the movie who's worth any money to anyone in that same way as something like Indiana Jones.
I just think the spectacle, like the over effects stuff. Think about how much money it costs to do all the CG in the first 30 minutes of Dial of Destiny. Think about that.
Yeah, I mean, they
didn't film on it wasn't a real train that Indy was hopping on when they strangely put in his theme there when they shouldn't have. It was like way too early for that scene, or whatever. It was like he's not doing anything heroic. He's just running on a train.
I would love to see this movie again. You're making me want to see it again.
I think we should see Dial of Destiny together. I think we really should see it together.
I would love to. I want to watch Crystal Skull with you. This is what I want to watch.
I haven't seen Crystal Skull all the way through since the theater. Like I've not.
Got it. I've got it on Blu-ray disc.
Can we can do a Prime watch party on Twitch. Yeah. You can do that. You can do the Prime watch parties, and it's somehow legal. What's that?
You can watch Indiana Jones on Twitch for real?
You can Prime if you have Amazon Prime, because it's the same company. You can watch things and do a watch party, but everyone to watch it has to have Amazon Prime. So then it's not piracy. Like if everyone in your chat, let's say there's 20 people in your chat that have Amazon Prime, they can watch you watch it. That's a Twitch thing that's been around for a couple years now. Surprised you don't know that. Yeah,
I just don't. I've never thought like I would love to like text strangers while I watch a movie. But you know,
I'm just saying we can make money doing this. We can get all those bits. We can watch Crystal Skull on Twitch.
Look, I want to know what's going on with the Crystal Skull. I haven't seen it in a long time. But just to go back to this real quick, like I just think it's a shame that this movie was a bomb because I don't think it deserved to be a bomb on its own merits.
Well, here's the thing: you're never going to see another Indiana Jones movie anyway, so it doesn't matter that it bombed for the most part.
Right. I just mean like the poster was good, the trailer was good. The poster was good. The movie, the movie was not a piece of shit. Like it was like I would say like a hard 7 or 8. Like,
I would not give it an 8. I think in my head I gave it at the theater a 6.5 walking out of the theater, and I think a
6.5 from you is exactly the same as an 8 from me.
I'm too much of a critic compared to you.
I think you're more discerning with your numbers. I think like this movie was in no like what'd you give Crystal Skull?
God, I don't remember.
If you had to slap a number on it, even though it's been 15 years, what do you think?
Crystal Skull was probably like a 6 or 5.5.
You thought it was that close between Dial of Destiny and Crystal Skull?
I'm trying to remember. There were things about Crystal Skull I enjoyed, but I'm trying to remember what they were. I like the chase scene on the bike was good. With Harrison Ford in the beginning, all like the first half of that movie is actually pretty good from my memory. It's the second half is terrible.
Nuclear Town, I love the nuclear town.
The fridge thing didn't bother me as much as everyone else.
Not at all.
It was still
comic books.
What bothered me more was the CG fucking little prairie dogs. That was terrible. It looked awful.
I think these guys just don't know.
I think the CG is what killed it for me. It was the over reliance on CG in the last half.
Maybe that's the word that we're looking for here.
Is what?
In terms of like what blockbusters will look like in the future after
less CG. I think
CG that's intentional, like more intentional movie making. Let's put it that way.
Well, let's put it this way: CG not to be used as a crutch.
Yeah,
CG to complement like they did in Lord of the Rings, not like, well, we can have like in Crystal Skull, we have these giant machines that cleared the jungle out like instantly. I'm sure stuff like that kind of exists, but not like that. Not like tanks that just railroad the entire jungle away.
We don't
need that. Yes, we don't need that in our movie.
Clear jungle. Yeah. There's no. What did that do for the movie?
Nothing. We don't need. You can do a chase sequence like a real one. You go up into the mountain somewhere with some trees around. Versus we're gonna have a mutt do a split with a sword in his hand between two vehicles.
I did think that Dial of Destiny was for the most part, like appropriately small stakes movie for a thing about an archaeologist. Like there wasn't that much he went through a time portal at the end, but that side like. It wasn't that bombastic. It was like a pretty he's in a lot of places that he would normally be.
I wouldn't call it small stakes when it's the fate of losing World War II to the Nazis. I don't think that's small.
That's like right at the end you find out about that. I'm just saying like the most part he's on like a motorcycle.
No, that's not you don't find it at the end. You know the whole time that's why he wants to get the Dial of Destiny.
In the streets of Morocco on a motorcycle is not a weird place. It's not like it's like unbelievable.
That's probably why the budget was so high too. Like that chase scene went on forever too. The trains the intro went on forever, but that chase scene, which was pretty decent, at some point though it's got to end. And there was nothing. That was also the problem with.
I liked the horse scene too. I liked the where he gets in the subway.
That was also the thing, and you're gonna ding me on this, but I don't care. You're gonna know I'm right. I just told you two things that were bad about Crystal Skull, but I remember them that happened. The vine swinging was ridiculous. The fight scene between the two vehicles and Mutt's doing a split, but they were memorable. They were not good, but they were memorable. Looking back from Dial of Destiny, what would you say would be this is the memorable action sequence or two from this film? Because every Indiana Jones film has like 3 memorable action things that happen in them.
I like the one where he was hanging upside down.
What was he hanging upside down?
right at the beginning, he's like hanging upside down from his whip, and he's like talking to these Nazis, and he kind of like does this neat little flip thing.
I don't even remember that. Okay, what's the second one?
That was a pretty cool one. I liked.
What's the second one?
Yeah, I liked. Let's see. I liked when he went in the subway on the horse. I thought that was good.
Okay, it was memorable because he was riding a horse.
It was
the
fun.
Subway.
Like it was like he's in a parade. You know,
okay.
It's a nice sequence.
Here's the thing. I guess this is what it comes down to. There was nothing inventive about this movie. There was nothing.
I don't know about that.
There was nothing inventive. Raiders of the Lost Ark. You had the booby traps in the beginning and the giant fucking ball rock coming. That's memorable. That wasn't memorable because of nostalgia. That's memorable. You had the truck chase is a brilliant scene to this day where you're like, this is dangerous. This was an incredible stunt. Harrison Ford did a lot of that. This was incredible. Temple of Doom. You have obviously the mine cart is iconic. You have the bridge scene, which is iconic.
I mean, we have those scenes.
No, you don't.
What do you mean?
In Last Crusade,
I remember all the action movies from this.
In Last Crusade, you have the boat chase was pretty good. The tank scene is iconic. When they're up in the airplane dogfighting with Sean Connery or Sean, I think they got us. All memorable.
Yeah.
And probably even jousting with the motorcycle scene. This movie is like, well, what was memorable about the scene where they're chasing the car and the little tri moped things? Like, what was memorable about that scene?
I like
what was inventive.
I like the scene where they're jumping in and out of the cars. That I thought was like a neat, clever part of that.
When he went off for a second and came back on.
No, there's it's like the boyfriend chase, right? Like,
yes,
that's what we're talking about.
Yeah,
and it's like there's like two cars, and the guy has the object, and he keeps jumping. He like goes onto the back of the other car, and he's flying around, and then he goes into the window of the other car. Like there was hijinks.
But had you seen that before in other movies? Yes, you'd seen stuff like that.
It's been 50 years.
I'm just telling you. I just named you examples from the original 4 Indiana Jones movie of stuff that you had never really seen before in these films.
In a movie?
What's that?
In a movie or in
a movie?
I know. Yeah, of course. Like James Bond has done everything that Indiana Jones has
I'm just saying this did not have anything memorable underwater. Nothing memorable happened. No action was memorable.
He's too old.
Well, there you go. That's why the movie is problematic. Then it's like it's an action hero that's too old.
But I mean that's the movie, right? Like
I guess.
I didn't think that the movie didn't have enough action. I wasn't.
No, it had action, but I'm saying it wasn't memorable action. It was
to me. Like I mean, like the chase was good. I thought I was looking at the trailer thinking that everything was going to kind of be like.
So 15 years from now, when people say, you know, these are the iconic moments of all these Indiana Jones movies, you're going to say, well, when he jumped into the car in the chase, that's the memorable action moment.
I mean, you're just repeating what I said in a like a worse voice. Like if all I could say is let me watch Dial of Destiny for 5 years.
Okay.
And I'll like, you know, let it marinate, let it be an indie movie. You know what I mean? Like I need to kind of see how indie congeals around the Dial of Destiny. One thing also that I wish indie did more nowadays, which it does not do, that I think a lot of other properties that do get a lot of love when they come out in theaters, like Ghostbusters or Transformers, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles do, is there's no apocrypha for Indiana Jones since like 1995.
What do you mean in terms of his other material?
There's nothing. Yeah, there's no good like ongoing. Like Star Wars has like 15 comics on the shelves every month. Like Indiana Jones, I know it's not Star Wars.
Yeah, the games in the 90s. You had the young indie series.
That's what I'm saying. 90s. Like, give me just like an IDW. Like long burn Indiana Jones and the comic book series. Give me a long burn like young Indiana Jones.
It's tougher because it's based upon a single character, and Star Wars now is like, you know, 50 characters you can base it around.
But that's okay. Like I don't need as much.
You want the short. You want the short round miniseries. I know I want that.
I'll take, dude.
Is there a short round comic series?
I bet you there is. I bet you there fucking is like a short round book series or some shit.
Let's see.
Like
no, I don't think
children's book series where he's like the main guy. I bet you.
He's been in comics, but like it sounds like because obviously they had the Indiana Jones Marvel series in the 80s.
Yeah.
The same way they had the Star Wars one where they did have the movie stuff and then they went off on other stuff.
I want that now. Just one. Give me one book. Give me Indiana Jones. Why not?
You got to play the games, I guess. The games are all like they're a self-contained story, like Fate of Atlantis.
All I'm saying is there isn't stuff. Like now on Transformers, like toys come out constantly, movies come out constantly. But
it's a toy line though, and so like I think that's different when it's toys first of all, and that's all stuff that
Ghostbusters then, right? There's always Ghostbusters.
I think Ghostbusters hit its sort of peak of like cultural relevancy, like in terms of like, well, you had one good movie and one that was all right, and you had a video game that was basically the third movie. That was like 2009, and Ghostbusters, I think falls off because it's more about the characters and them being funny more so than the concept. The concept is secondary to the character interplay. That's why you watch Ghostbusters not for the ghosts. You watch it for Aykroyd, Harold Ramis, and Bill Murray. That's why you watch Ghostbusters.
The general public, yes. But
yes,
the reason that these movies continually put up numbers, like Ghostbusters Afterlife, $80 million movie, something like that, made like $200 million.
That's not with marketing though. That's like breaking even.
I think that's pretty good because that movie came out literally in COVID.
Let's see, Ghostbusters. I thought Afterlife was all right. I thought it was heartfelt, the tribute to Harold Ramis. But then when I see, some 7-year-olds in their outfits, and I'm just like, yeah, I think I'm good now. I don't think
that's literally what the plot of Indiana Jones is a 70-year-old in his outfit.
Yeah, but I think I'm at the point where I don't think I need to see these characters this old. I think there's a point.
I would have been fine with Alden Ehrenreich as Indiana Jones.
Let's see. So the budget was $75 million, which means with marketing, let's see, you make about half of the box. Yeah, I don't think they made much money.
You have to look at it in that it came out in 2021 when nobody was going to the movies, and you got to see that's
August. That's when things were starting to pick up. Yeah, that's right.
You got to see that's pretty good numbers for that movie. Let's compare it to Indiana Jones, which you'd think Indiana Jones has a more iconic. It's popular franchise. You'd think more people would show up for an indie movie than they would for a Ghostbusters movie.
Sure,
but it seems they did not, and I believe that the reason is because the fandom is not active in the way that a lot of other fandoms are.
Mm-hmm.
You know what would be great for Indiana Jones that I think would be like a winner? Just do fucking serialized radio show of Indiana Jones, and it's a podcast. Indiana Jones Adventure Hour. Let's go.
Like they still have some station in San Diego on a Sunday night. I'll be driving home from like Frankfurt or something. I'll be like, oh, they're doing a radio play. Like that's kind of interesting. Like it still exists in some form.
Marvel is doing actual and DC.
They're doing radio plays. Yeah,
amazing radio plays. The Wolverine stuff is adult and amazing. It's like cable TV. It's worth watching, and the actors are like A-list. Like, just give me some let's not make it so crazy that indie is in our consciousness if we want to have a successful indie movie.
You know what's crazy? I'm looking at the Ghostbusters. So Ghostbusters Afterlife cost $75 million. The abysmal 2016 remake cost double that to make.
Yeah, but it probably made more too, right?
Not really. It made $20 million more, but that was obviously a huge bomb.
That movie was like, that movie I felt like got the respect that a Ghostbusters reboot should have gotten in terms of it just being like a fun movie for the summer. I think a lot of people, that movie picked up a lot of anger from people who were like, you'll never replace my Ghostbusters. But I think like both the people that made the movie and me, the movie watcher, both agreed that was a movie for the summer of 2016 that I'd never need to watch again.
Well, but it was also like not the tone of like Ghostbusters is like tightly scripted, like dialogue that like bounce, we're out. That was like when you go to the behind the scenes, hey, we'll just run the cameras. You can improv the entire scene. It's like, no.
Yeah. I'm sure Ghostbusters has a lot of that too with those guys in there.
Oh, no. Back in the day, there was some improv, but like that's on the page. Like Ramis was like writing that stuff out with like Aykroyd and those folks and Ivan Reitman. Like they're writing this shit out. Like
I don't doubt it. Those guys are like real movie makers who were trying to make a movie.
They were real comedians.
But that's what I'm saying. Ghostbusters 2016 to me was like, hey, Ghostbusters. Like, remember Ghostbusters?
No, it was like, this is the SNL version of Ghostbusters. Like that's basically what it was.
That's kind of what Ghostbusters.
That's not what Ghostbusters. I'm telling you, it's not what Ghostbusters.
Ghostbusters was like, SNL. It was literally SNL guys doing a Ghostbusters movie.
But it wasn't sketch like where it's like,
no, but that's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Ghostbusters 2016 succeeded in my mind as a sort of forgettable summer movie for the summer.
Okay, you thought it was just forgettable, but my point is, like, I guess for a property like that, you can't do it with a property like that. You have to be very careful.
Or do you? Right?
Well, like, you do, because like that movie bombed, and they were supposed to start a whole Ghostbusters universe because of that.
I mean, I can't speak about that. I don't know about that.
They were supposed to, like, it was like Ghost Squad universe. Remember, that was when they were supposed to do like the whole Universal Monsters universe with the Tom Cruise Mummy movie. They were supposed to start all these universes off, but it's like,
it's the fucking Microsoft Store, Apple Store thing. It's just a bad look. It's like when every video game on PS3 was like, and the multiplayer version is good, and it like destroyed like every single player video game franchise it like ever made, turned into just like pure trash. And like,
you talking about like the Fortnite model?
There was like Uncharted multiplayer. There was like BioShock 2 multiplayer. There was like all these like games that they were just like, well, we need multiplayer because Halo did so well. Like, so much of what's out there that people do in the movie world and in the entertainment world and the comics world and in the TV world, it's all just like, maybe if I do the same thing, I'll do it. And well, it's just so cynical, and it's not fair that Indy had to try and make it in a world like that.
Oh, so you're blaming the failure of Indiana Jones on the culture?
He never had a chance.
Never had a chance. Well, I guess Uncle Marty was right. Going back to like, everything's now disposable content, because that's what it is now. Everything's like, we'll just do a tax write-off for Batgirl, and you'll never see the movie that we spent $60-80 million on, even though we'll probably turn like a profit on that, or at least break even. It'll be better as a tax write-off. I just saw a tweet in regards to like Bob Eisner saying like, oh, like, don't there's these people don't know what they're talking about, they're being unreasonable. I saw
Bob Iger, yeah.
Was it Eisner or Iger?
Iger. Eisner's
the old one.
The old one. The one who looks like my dentist.
I saw a response to that from someone that said, hey, I was a showrunner on this show on Disney Plus that got 2 seasons, 11 Emmy nominations, and you fucking pulled it from the platform so no one can see it, and so that you won't have to pay residuals. And you're calling us unreasonable. Like, yep. We literally produced a show that got 11 Emmy nods, and you treat it like garbage. Like, it's gone. No one can see it anymore. They literally
spent so much money that they can't pay anyone.
And people were replying, I'd never heard of this show. It's like, well, isn't that the problem then? Like, isn't that part of the problem? Like, it goes back, like, again, Uncle Marty was right, that when you treat this entertainment art as disposable content, just who cares about it, this is what you get. You get it treated like trash.
Limitations are the generator of creativity.
So in general, you're saying like if we had like a quarter of the content we have right now,
it would all be so much better.
For terms of movies, well, documentaries are their own thing. That's different. They don't really cost nearly as much.
Even documentaries, same thing. Across the board, same deal. Same deal. If there was 1/4 as many documentaries, they would all be better. If there was 1/4 as many movies, they would all be better.
You think so?
Yeah, the only one that I'm like maybe not with, and maybe it's still true, is comics, because so few people are involved in making them. But even then, I still feel like the less, like, that good ass comic writer like Tom King, right? He doesn't really have to do this because he's like actually selling a shitload of stuff. But a lot of comic writers, they have to write that issue they don't want to write, or they have to pick up that extra book they don't want to write because they're under contract. And even that one is still worse than the one that they want to be writing. So yeah, my thing stands up across the board. Same thing with food. Starbucks, realized this.
Wait, if we had 25% of the amount of food, we'd be better off?
No, food businesses. Like when Starbucks literally was like, we're going to close all our stores for a month. 1/3 of them are going to close forever. And when we open up again in a month, we're going to be the best Starbucks has ever been. And they were right.
So they improved the quality overall by
closing 1/3 of their stores.
After they put mom and pop shops out of business.
Yeah, but that's the whole problem. If everybody could just be a fucking earnest individual, if they could just fucking make things based on what they want to be making, if people could just, be self-respecting and not like, try to actively sort of like, what's the word I'm looking for? Actively, we take advantage of it. Actively, any system that you're a part of, you want to take advantage of it.
Okay.
If
Manipulate?
just,
You mean manipulate? Like people manipulating systems?
yeah, for some reason I'm thinking of an E word. I don't know what it is, but if you could just not go into every like decision making process in your life, like how can I like manipulate this? How can I do this in bad faith to get myself more?
But isn't that unfortunately like when corporate interests are put into place, that's how corporations are like fiducial like
I might be blowing your mind by saying this, but you might find that I'm not the biggest supporter of giant corporations.
No. I'm not necessarily. They're like in some aspects necessary evil, in other parts just evil. The point is that once you become like a publicly traded company, you are less and less likely to think in an egalitarian standpoint about things other than what makes me the most money now. Like that's basically what it comes. And obviously that's arts and entertainment. It's like what makes us the most amount of money. We don't care about the industry 5 years from now. We care about our shareholders right now. We care about our quarterly earnings right now.
I understand the mindset, but I'll ask you this. Was Marvel in a better spot in 2012 when there was 2 movies, 3 movies a year? Or now where I wish there was no movies ever again?
Well, Marvel got a huge fucking payout from Disney, so after 2012, so it doesn't matter. They got paid out.
But that's what I'm saying.
So Marvel doesn't really exist anymore in terms of like how it used to. So I mean,
that's what I mean. Like the situation was created. Like if they had just made conservative decisions, you can do this. Like companies do exhibit restraint and keep their value high. Companies do this all the time.
Yes, but we're talking about going back to streaming. Like this is not a product that it's easy to know what your ROI is, to know what your investment versus outcome is going to be. And now they discovered we fucked up. They all discovered that no one was an adult in the room.
They didn't discover anything.
No, they did. They did.
Doing it flagrantly and knowingly this whole time and have been trying to cover it up actively this whole time.
I don't know about trying to cover it up. I mean, they basically come out and said publicly, like, yeah, Marvel, we're doing too much shit right now. That's why we're pushing out release dates. We're not going to have, like at one point I was going to be 4 movies a year and like 3 or 4 series. That's like nuts.
You sure it wasn't because their 2 biggest villains just got like in like domestic battery cases at the same time?
Well, no. I thought one was a sexual assault allegation for Namor. That was the one.
I thought I don't know. It doesn't matter.
No, that has nothing to do with it. I think they realized that we just went, as Lucas said, when looking at his own cut of Phantom Menace, I think I've gone too far in some places. They think they realized we did too much and we don't know what we're doing anymore. And like the first 10 years of the MCU was lightning in a bottle that will never be replicated. And the same thing with Star Wars. You get that first Star Wars movie back. Wow, I haven't seen a new Star Wars movie. And at that point, that was only 12 years. That was only 10 years between movies, 2005 and 15. Holy shit. That was it, 10 years. And so now that we have this back, we have the nostalgia bait in front of everyone. How do we maintain this? How do we maintain this fervor? And I think how you do it is by not pumping out as much content as possible. You don't saturate the market. Unfortunately, superheroes is now oversaturated. Star Wars, due to a lot of factors, if not oversaturated, it's hit its zenith. It's done. Like it'll never be as big as what it was. So
I think it's get up and do a good job. And the more people that can get up and actually try to do a good job, the better everything will be. And I think that the less that people try to not do a good job and still make money, and the more they try to do a good job, they'll make money, everyone will like them, and they may not have as much money, but at least we'll be living in a country with culture at the end.
So do a good job, smaller victories are still victories.
Yeah, otherwise we're going to be in Cyberpunk 2077 before the year 2077.
Oh, we're going to be there. Are you kidding me?
A cyberpunk dystopia is like 2 years away.
Are you seeing?
Let's not biff this.
Have you seen these on Twitter? This is how we know we're too old. These TikTok live streams where I can officially say I'm tapped out. I have no idea what I'm watching. Have you seen these?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Go look up just on Twitter. People like screen capturing TikTok live streams where it's like shit out of Blade Runner, where it's like this woman is doing sounds and reactions to tips like in repeat, and it's the human equivalent of playing a slot machine and seeing and getting direct feedback, dopamine feedback constantly. Like doing like you're not sure what you're watching, but you're watching people give tips and like, and the woman's like doing the same monotone responses and like gestures to getting tips and to emote. It's like a human emoticon machine. Is the best way I can explain it.
Yeah, it's the equivalent of taking a wild animal and putting him in a cage, like where they push a button and their food comes out.
Yes, but it's humans doing it to each other, and it's the new form of entertainment apparently. And this is where I'm like, am I just too old, or is this really just a bad sign for the future?
It's what happens when you hand the Vogue over to a computer. It's what happens when you let an efficient machine optimize consumption rather than let it be its own weird thing.
People thought on Twitter they were watching AI. They're like, no, this was a live stream of a human being. Like, and they were like, if you, I can't, you gotta.
If your system that you're, even if you are a real person and your system is based around maximizing your views and interactions using an algorithm, is it not AI? You know what I mean? Like, is that not?
Well, it's not. It's not artificial intelligence. It's
yeah, right, sure, yeah, okay.
Like I wish.
Are we not all working? Aren't we all being kind of controlled by AI right now? If you think about it.
I wish I'd prepped you with it because I didn't think it would come up in conversation. But I guess it's so scary because it's like this is the next wave of entertainment, and I officially don't understand it. And I know people say it was because you're too old, but no, I think at some point I just don't understand it. Okay,
it's more like a dildo than a book.
Let me send you a 6 in our chat. I'll send you. This is like a 6-second version of it. But this one person in particular is like blowing the fuck up. She's blowing up in terms of like, just search TikTok live.
Where are you dropping this?
On Twitter. I'm going to send it to you right now. Copy a link to tweet, and then you'll see more. Where's the chat thing? Like, yeah, I should have prepped you. My bad. Chat. There you go. Play some of these, and let me know what you think. It's really. It's like I had to watch it a few times to know what I was watching. Leave muted on here, but it's like the same. Like she sticks her tongue out in response to a certain like chat command. She does a wave thing for certain. Like she has all these again. It's like a person being an emoji reacting to things in the chat.
It just feels like watching a YouTube channel in fast motion.
I guess that's what the future is, but
it's just the most cynical possible version of a YouTube channel. It's not a culturally rich thing. It is
basically dopamine hits. It's a slot machine.
Yeah, it's not the same thing. I reject it.
Here's a new one. Okay, it's just not me because I'm old. Here's another one. I'll share another one where this person is just literally reacting to tips and little chat things. And I'm like, okay, I'm officially too old. This is a new generational thing. Not everyone, obviously, that's like 20 years old, 18, but like this is now entertainment to people. And
it's just. I mean, it is what it is. Like, I can't speak to the cultural like satisfaction that it's bringing someone. I can't imagine what culturally could bring them to be satisfied by that or think one is cooler or better than the other. I don't know if anybody even shows each other these or talks about
no. Again, this is human slot machine. I'm not kidding. You ever play a slot machine in a casino?
Yeah, no, I know. It just you put the money in and it makes things light up. Things
light up. You interact with buttons. There's the sights and sounds. They all scientifically cater this to keep you playing the machine.
Yeah,
because
so in my mind, this is I think a mistake is conflating this with the entertainment industry.
Well, I'm not saying this has anything to do with the strikes at all or Indiana Jones. I'm just saying this is the next wave of entertainment.
I think it does. I think it does have something to do with both of those things.
Oh, it does.
I think the problem is that there's people out there right now who can't tell the difference.
You think a younger generation maybe does no difference between that form of entertainment and go seeing like a tentpole picture? Yes. You mean like they expect to get the same sort of dopamine hit off it, and since they're not going to get it, they won't see it.
Yes.
So you're basically saying the demise because of the Zoomers is going to lead to be less movies.
I think it's not just the Zoomers. I think if you talk to your parents now, maybe not your specific parents, but like that generation, the boomer generation, their minds are mush now because of the internet too.
You think so, or because of cable news?
It's the same thing, but like they're going on the internet, they're going on the cable news, they're getting it's the same type of like algorithmic, weird brain smoothing outing entertainment.
Sure,
Fox
I guess in
Fox News is just a different, older model of the same thing, and it's just positive reinforcement of your worldview and like manipulating your worldview. And this is the same thing. They're manipulating your behavior by using like
shiny things.
That control you. Same thing. And I think right now people are trying to do that with movies. And I think I would rather watch a movie that I can have a discussion with somebody about and not have to be like being like, well, we both agree that this isn't a movie, but that aside, let's just pretend like we're still talking about a movie.
We both agree. Is that going to be the next thing? Movies that you're not sure are movies? You're like, what am I watching?
I don't know. There's some movies that you watch and you're like, this, like, I want to, like, just real quick. I don't want to get into this because it's so bad that it doesn't matter. Quantumania to me was like a horrible, it was like, is this a movie? I don't know if it is.
Well, what defines a movie? You have to have actors, a plot.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe? I don't know. But
there was a plot.
Something about it felt a lot more like than it did like a coherent movie.
It felt like TikTok Live, Quantumania.
It felt like the person who was giving the notes on the movie was trying to make it more like a slot machine.
Do you think so? Because like we can put as much shiny things in the background and weird creatures to distract you from not having like there's narrative.
Like ways of talking in the movie that are there to like make you feel certain emotions without doing the like actual writing work. Like it's such a cynically made movie. The formula is so cynical that it feels soulless.
You think that was the turning point for you for MCU stuff? It's like, wow, this is definitely following a formula. The CG is way over the top, and I was
already out.
And this movie just exists to set up your next villain for the next Avengers movie. So it's like it's like you're reading a comic issue, knowing that the actual story in it doesn't matter at all, really, and it's just to set up the villain.
I do that exact thing a lot, but I like
sure, but the comics aren't like $200 million pieces of entertainment.
Right, but you can see behind me, like I've got the real comics. I've been out. I don't need I'm still on a movie to movie basis with all these franchises. Like the MCU crack addict, what's going to happen next element has never really been that exciting for me. Except to yell at my friends about my comic book knowledge, right? Like I never have been like a lifer in this, but I do enjoy some of the movies from time to time. I just feel like lately I've been actively not enjoying many more than usual. And I think this is why.
Now we're going to talk about Quantumania for a little bit. I was just going to bring it up. I just can't believe that, they've successfully done probably the most successful series of movies of all time. By and large have been these MCU movies, because now it's like over 20 movies. They've all turned a profit. I think, but maybe before Quantumania, they all turned some form of a significant profit, and they all are they're all about the same quality level. Like even the worst MCU movie is still not like a horrible movie. Like Iron Man 2 and Thor 2 are still like these are watchable.
Quantumania is.
But that's what I mean. So by and large, they've been great caretakers. They did a nice 10-year arc that was like, you're never going to top this, right?
Ever since Endgame, it's kind of been...
I'd argue Endgame was a far step below Infinity War.
War. That's what I'm saying. Endgame was the first one for me where I was like, this seems kind of sus.
But at least...
less about the spirit of the movies and more about like marketing. Like super satisfaction.
Tons of like just, hey, congratulate ourselves for the last 10 years of content. But I understood that's how Endgame had to be.
And a lot of what I call consumer therapy, which is I think another big genre of thing now.
Consumer therapy. I never heard of that before.
Yeah. This is just what I call it. Where they're like,
okay,
don't worry, Luke Skywalker and Grogu are okay. They're here, see?
Ooh.
Don't worry.
Well, isn't that just like an opiate? You're talking about like just a nostalgia opiate? Or just like
they just do like
entertainment
as promised, finally the throne is he gets to be like just there's all these things in the movie that as it should be, my lord.
To make you feel better? Like this is we don't want you to make you feel uncomfortable watching any of this.
Yeah, they don't want to make anything like, is this character going to die? This is a complex idea that challenges my like perception of society. Like, the things that art are for, like the things
Sure.
that cutting edge entertainment is about, making you think about things and expanding.
Sure, but I guess Infinity War, the villain won, and they killed off half of everyone in creation. It's an
exciting surprise. But I liked Infinity War. That's not what I said. I said Endgame was where I started to go.
But you're saying in general, these entertainment mediums now are just like you said, everything's going to be fine.
Don't worry. Steve Rogers is here.
You'll be okay. We don't want to upset you because we want you to buy the next thing. We want you to watch the next thing.
Yes, Han Solo may be dead, but don't worry. He's getting his glory.
He's got a flashback in the next movie.
Him. Yeah, don't worry. Everything's fine. Like, that's how most movies are. And even Indiana Jones. Like, if I wrote Indiana Jones fresh, like if I was like somehow magic happened, lightning struck, and I got contacted by Lucasfilm to like make the next Indiana Jones screenplay, draft one, it would have been way darker.
You mean for the last movie or for the first movie?
No, for Dial of Destiny. If they were like,
darker,
we want to do the last Indiana Jones movie before maybe he's too old. You know what I mean? Like whatever the pitch is before they bring on the writer. Like, I would have been like, Shorty's dead. Like, like I would have been like, Indy's he's starting to murder. I don't know. Like,
he's starting to murder.
I'm just saying, like
he's gone mad.
Why are we making one more Indiana Jones movie? We need to ratchet up the stakes for Indiana Jones. We need to force Indiana Jones to do something he doesn't want to do in a way that's not like, don't worry, Indy's like,
well, you weren't sure what's going to happen. He might have stayed in ancient Greece.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I was thinking was going to happen. He was going to just decide to stay with his books forever and just live out his days as a sad loner.
He was going to hang out with
Archimedes.
He was going to hang out with Archimedes.
Yeah, no, nobody was that. Dude,
I think entertainment means a lot. It's a lot different when entertainment means to the older generation and my generation, the younger. It's obviously been morphing to the point where
it's just your religion now, pretty much.
No, it's the point where, like you said, we want people now look to entertainment to be more comfortable and to ignore real world problems. Hell, Comic-Con's coming up next week. This is the first year I'm not going to Comic-Con, even before now that all the actors and all the studios aren't going to be there for it. But the more I went to Comic-Con, I was at the Comic-Con. I've been there for almost 15 straight years. I first went in 2008, right before it started blowing up in the 2010s. When I was like, okay, this is nuts, but still reasonable. Then it blew up in the 2010s because you had the zenith of Harry Potter, Walking Dead. You got Stranger Things. You got the Star Wars coming back.
Avengers, yeah.
MCU, like,
Paul H.
2012. We'll say that's when it blew up. Like, too much pop culture. You could feel it. I'm trying not to make it cast aspersions upon people that like, hey, this is your whole life. But I got the feeling that it became more of like pop culture became like, hey, if you're down with this is you. Like, this is everything that we have identity. Is for you, not as like a one-off entertainment piece. Now you have to live this lifestyle of like, if you like Walking Dead, boy, you gotta watch this series and the spin-offs, and you have to watch the making of a show or the Talking Dead afterwards and the comics. Like, you can't just enjoy one thing anymore. You have to enjoy and you have to get into these entertainment ecosystems that exist. And the MCU is probably the biggest one responsible because you had to see every movie to make it make sense. Like, you had to, right? For the most part. You can go see Infinity War or Endgame, but unless you saw other movies, you might be lost about what the fuck is this a reference to? That didn't exist before like 10 years ago, where like you had to buy into these ecosystems or else you were lost.
Yeah, it's true. And I mean, it did exist, but it was like nerds only doing it.
Well,
it was still more like motivated by the nerds themselves than like the companies like literally like feeding you like you're a pet now.
Well, no, but before it was like, okay, we have a new movie, a new Star Wars one comes out every 3 years, but that's all you need to understand the movies. Or like James Bond movies are kind of self-contained. You don't need to like know all the lore. Indiana Jones movies are standalones. Like it became more of like, again, you have to buy into all of it. You have to become like your identity has to be kind of married to this
It's religion.
to a degree.
It's literally religion. It's a church, bro. Like what you're describing right now is a church.
So that's why I got scared. I got
dogmatic.
So
it's stupid.
It's dogmatic. Like you said, like I started going to more Comic Cons. I'm just like, I can tell the people that are just there, this is cool. But like, you can tell the people that are like, wow, this is their life. Like they live like this is it. This is what they live for. And I think I became a little more cynical with that. And obviously the merchandise you see being made obviously doesn't help. I think I was walking around with our pal Andre at one convention, at one San Diego Comic Con. I think it was like 4 years ago, maybe right before the pandemic. And I saw a Chewbacca light switch plate, like literally the plate around your light switch. And I think that was the moment where he saw me, where I said, I think I'm done. This is it. I said, all this shit you see is going to be in a landfill in like 25 years. Like all this shit is like that's where the cynicism hit me to the point where it was crystallized, where I can't imagine being the person that would like, once you start buying light plate switches that are Star Wars themed, like how far down are you? Like we're like, that's your identity.
I can see that in your kid's room, right? But like it really does feel like
I don't think your kids want that.
It does really. I mean, like we all wore underoos. It just feels like the goal. I don't know if it's the goal, but it feels like as an intelligent, cultured individual who, like I said, I'm an English major. So like just dissecting texts and thinking about things literarily is like what I learned how to do for my life, right? Like it seems like earnest enjoyment is like they honestly want to erode it. It honestly seems like genuine earnest enjoyment is like contrary to capitalism now, because
I just think with
they'd rather just lock you down.
Well, I think it's also partially, that's a good point. They want to lock you down because there's so many more avenues of entertainment that they used to be. Your attention can be like 15, 20 years ago, your attention was divided by what's on the internet, what's on liveleaks.com or whatever, or what, or what's on my website forum. Once you get smartphones, now we're competing. Now we're making movies that we're competing with literally your time with a device always in your pocket where you can watch entertainment for free 24 hours a day. So maybe that's the unfortunate, like it's like the attention wars we're in now, where everyone's vying for a piece of your attention pie. And this is like the unnatural end game of it. Pardon that end game pun, is that, wow, we have to get you into the ecosystem to make sure that you're married to us. We want you. We want the relationship with you first and foremost.
It's literally like the Catholic Church in like 1625. Like it's literally like that same vibe. Like everything in your life has to be like they're just trying to make as many rules and things about what it means to be a fan that you can't get out of it. That your money has to go, however much percentage of your income has to go to the church.
Has to go to Star Wars.
It has to go to the Church of the Force, or
you have to buy the Wookiee.
Thanos, or whatever.
You have to buy the figures. You have to buy the Wookiee light cover, which I almost feel like I have to buy it now. I have to find this thing and buy it.
Yeah, how dare you watch Quantumania before watching, Moon Knight?
Or how dare you watch Endgame without watching? How dare you watch? What was a good example? Like you could have watched Multitude of Madness and understood it, but if you didn't see WandaVision, you were not getting nearly out of that what you would have.
Even before that, the second Captain America movie is like you really need to know what's going on, or like Civil War, you really need to know what's going on to like care about the drama of that movie.
Sure.
Like it's I don't know. Everybody do me a favor if you're watching this. If you sat here for 2 hours and you said, I think I agree with these guys, here's what you can do for yourself. And even if you've never done this before, go watch a movie at a movie theater that only has one screen and shows movies that aren't in their initial theater run. I know that it's hard for some people to do.
It's hard to find those theaters.
But it's not that hard. Like
okay.
Most people who live far away from one of those have to drive far to do everything.
So a local mom and pop theater that they do like, hey, we're going to do a festival like we're going to do like a Frankenheimer themed week or whatever.
I live in LA. I live in a bubble of this. I understand that it's because I'm from the land where the fantasy worlds come from. I get it, but they're everywhere. You can go watch old movies and
in theaters.
And do me a favor, and at those screenings, look at the audience and try and be like those people. Try and
be 68 years old watching an old rom-com from 54.
Like, well, I mean,
what do you mean?
Actually, no. Like, honestly, like when I go, like, okay, tomorrow's my birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to see a 2:00 matinee of The Fifth Element.
Okay.
That's tight.
So,
That's tight.
So find a theater near you, a small theater that does like, maybe during the week they only do them. They do one-off showings of older films.
Yes. Exactly. Just do yourself the solid of actually going to see something that exists only because people are excited to see it.
Find some theater that will do like, hey, this week is John Carpenter week, and we're going to show The Thing.
Find some rare shrine of earnest enjoyment out there and go pay some respect to something.
That's divorced from a multi-conglomerate giant corporation that's worth $150 billion that wants to control every form of entertainment.
Yeah. You don't have to do this all the time. I get that it's fun to just be a shitlord and watch the movies. We both went and saw A Dial of Destiny. We both saw Quantumania.
I almost did not. I was like, you know what? I got to discuss this maybe with Alex. Otherwise, I might not have seen it.
But you're glad you saw it.
I don't know if I am. I honestly don't know if I am.
I mean, I think maybe you got some like larger like nostalgia like versus.
I did not get nostalgia. I got nostalgia out of seeing Crystal Skull. I did not get nostalgia out of this because it wasn't nostalgia, because he wasn't doing Indiana Jones things really in this.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, but the point is, we all like to consume the crap. We all go to McDonald's. We all do the shitty stuff. It's impossible not to. We live in America. It's just part of what our culture is. We can't escape it. However, real stuff still exists. That exists purely because people like it, and you should explore, and you should have a mind of your own when it comes to entertainment. And if you like something, yes, there is more stuff out there like it. Yes, there is a system behind it. Yes, the people who made it were thinking. Yes,
you can find people like you that think the same way.
There is organic intertextuality between things without it having to be officially licensed and branded and have a point after the credits.
Alex, what do you got going on? You want to promote anything?
Go listen to my podcast, Chilluminati. Go listen to my Let's Play show, Super Beard Bros, 10 years on YouTube. Congrats on your 15 years.
Who's 15 years? My 15 years?
Yeah. And, we're all old YouTube people now. And if you like talking about media, you can go check out my new podcast that I'm doing where I'm watching in context, in order, the entire old canon of Star Wars in order. You can go watch that. It's a Star Wars old canon book club. Go check it out. There's watch alongs, there's Patreon, there's all kinds of great stuff. You can go get out of that. But if you want to relive Star Wars from no media to all of it and kind of track and kind of look through an anthropological way and try and see what they were thinking and how they're trying to expand Star Wars and track the birth and death of a giant media.
The death. Are you going over those books that were like semi-canon before they decided upon the proper, like the ones that were made after Star Wars when it came out? Those
you mean Splinter of the Mind's Eye?
Yeah, you gonna do that stuff?
Episode 3.
There you go.
It's already live. Star Wars Holiday Special, episode 4, live now. On the
I love that because it like pushes back on those people that thought Lucas was a genius, where it's like, oh yeah, he had all 9 of these episodes planned out, and it's just like, no, he really didn't.
Real talk though, you should read the first like 5 sentences of the first Star Wars book, because you'd be surprised how much you did have planned out. I will say that, as if that's a little trailer for you to go watch.
He had a general idea. Yes, but like he didn't have like, well, Leia's gonna be, Luke's.
No, that
Luke's
specific
sister.
Plot point, absolutely not.
He
is hot for teacher for like.
And he also did not have Vader being Luke's daddy at first.
No. The Skywalker family stuff is all.
That was all like, hey, we got to make this interesting.
Probably, yeah.
We need a plot twist. How do we do? I mean, it worked.
It's probably Lawrence Kasdan who did it. I bet.
You think so? He's like, you know what? This could be interesting. But
that dude is a legit genius. Kasdan.
I did read the novelization of Empire, which is like 98% the same, except that Yoda was a blue gnome. Is that spoilers for your podcast? He was not.
No, that's like the next thing we're about to do. But I actually have the. No, it's all good. I actually have the book that has like all the art.
Yeah.
From the Lucasfilm archives, and I've seen the concept art of the blue gnome, and he is fucking weird looking.
Yeah, it's not Yoda. Like it's like it's I mean it's the same words and stuff, but like it's not visually close.
It looks like a Jim Henson, like I don't even know, like John Denver character. It's like fucking weird.
And there is, I think there's also, is there concept art of Yoda when he was like a hulking, like big muscular guy with a beard? Am I thinking that up, or there was something?
Dude, I'll send you some pictures. I still have it somewhere. It's a neat book. I bagged it at Disneyland like 20 years ago. It was a grand time.
Before we sign off, but when you get to episode 9, when it becomes a mess, because whatever
in my world, there is no episode 9. That's the grandest part.
What?
My world ends in 2014.
Oh really? So it's like
that's when the canon ends, you know.
Let me know when you get to Dark Forces, the video game stuff, and I can come in and discuss that.
Yeah, we're almost there.
Because Dark Forces is like a great concept and brilliant, and Kyle Katarn has been erased from Star Wars canon because all those games were canon before Disney bought them.
Can I ask you a question, since I know you care about Kyle Katarn? Isn't it wild that Jyn Erso was a character in Star Wars Rogue One? Have you ever thought about that?
Yeah, very similar to the look of his comrade and all those flying the ship. Yeah,
and her name is Jan Ors, by the way.
Yeah, and she dresses somewhat similar. Yeah. And then what's his name from Andor dresses almost exactly. He dresses exactly like Kyle Katarn. Yes,
he even has his gun. He even has his gun.
He has his vest and everything. Yes. Yeah. Then like
Andor. Did you watch Andor?
No. But I'm like, when I saw that, I'm like, why not just put Kyle Katarn into Rogue One and have that be the character?
Next time, I know, but next time that we do this, I want to talk about Andor with you.
Will that finally get, because I'm out of Star Wars. I tapped out. Will that get me back into Star Wars?
Yes.
Were you? Did you like Rogue One? I thought it was pretty good.
I enjoyed it. I thought it was like, I definitely loved it way more than Dial of Destiny. I thought it was
yes.
But Andor is on another level from Rogue One. Andor is a real show. It's crazy.
It's not just like Baby Yoda and lightsabers. There's like real characters and drama.
I think it's the best. You know how discerning I am. You know how how eclectic my taste is, right?
Yeah.
This is the best TV show that was on TV last year.
Shut up. Really?
Mon Mothma was not on my short list for being my favorite character on TV. I'm not fucking joking. Go watch
in her white flowing gown.
Bro, it's like The Crown, dude. And actually, like a couple of people from The Crown are actually on there. Just go watch the show.
All right, I don't have Disney Plus. You got to borrow your password.
I'll pirate it. I'm punk like that.
I'll get you banned from Disney stuff. All right, Alex, it was great to catch up with you. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
I'm Pat Contri. If you're watching me, you kind of know where I'm at. But I don't know. Alex is always when I found me at Pat the NES Punk on Twitter, at ContriCode on Instagram.
Find me on Threads.
Threads is coming. Threads is coming.
Find me on Threads.
The one time I'm rooting for Zuckerberg ever is him versus Elon. I hope they actually fight.
If they fight, dude, he's looking kind of fit. He's looking kind of good.
Oh, Zuckerberg trains MMA.
Yeah, he's looking kind of ready. Yeah.
I mean, he's still a lizard person, so everything's sort of like automaton when he's fighting, probably. But I
still think it would be like watching Bruce Lee in one of those martial arts competitions where he like drops some dude in like 5 seconds. I think that's. Anyway, let's get out of here.
We'll talk about how weird YouTube and celebrity boxing is on the next episode of the Not So Common podcast.
Yes.
Take care, everyone.
Goodbye.